We'll still need integration infrastructure for that. Well, ideally, I want to get it close enough to the pad, Altio. I want to have a designated landing area, and I need to get the landing within a couple meters, right? I'm talking like maybe 100 meters from the pad, but I can take the gantry crane, right, and just roll the crane over and pick the dang booster up. But that's a little bit difficult, but I could do it. Yeah, that's what I want to do. It's going to be difficult, though. That'd be hard to get that done right. We might need the TDRV after all, but let's not go that far. We're going to do NILESAT launch coverage and space news now. Let's see. So SpaceX NILESAT-301 Launch coverage. Science and technology. What about like an octograbber like on the barges? Well, octograbber doesn't transport anything shady, but yeah, I mean, we have the hold down points, remember. I could drive something underneath it and lift it up. I would only really do that though if it was close to the pad. I don't want to transport that thing vertical around because, well, there's that tipping problem. We could make an SPMT. We could make an SPMT and with a bracket and move it Starship style. That's doable. I can do that. Actually, that's probably what I would end up doing. Actually, that's a really good idea. Now I just have to make an SPMT though.
Action here.
Okay, there we go. I brought up the NASA Spaceflight Cast because SpaceX isn't live yet. The Mun pallet probably wouldn't do it hired. It would crush the thing. There's Falcon. It's sitting out on the pad. That's NILESAT-301. NILESAT is an Egyptian satellite. And this is Falcon 9's gonna move it up into space, and they're gonna do a drone ship landing, I think, this time. Tippy canoe, yeah, Maverick, yeah, you're not wrong.
Enjoying that great weather as well.
Awesome, and yeah, beautiful weather out here. I mean, look, there's like no haze going on out there. And last but not least,
sounds like a pineapple to me.
Baylor is pulling all the levers here in the background. He'll be operating the stream today. Now we are about 30 minutes away from liftoff today. Alex, do you want to take us through a little bit what Falcon 9 is doing today? Where is it taking this satellite to?
Sure. So today's mission is launching the NILESAT-301 satellite. It's a communication satellite, and it is launching it to a geostationary transfer orbit, which means the satellite's going to be on a transfer orbit to a geostationary orbit. And a geostationary orbit, for those that don't know, is one orbit where the orbital period is the same as the time that it takes for the Earth to rotate. So that means that the satellite in orbit is always above the same point on Earth. And so if you have, for example, an antenna on the ground, you can just point it to one part of the sky, and the satellite is always there. So
that's brilliant.
That kind of thing for communications satellite. Obviously, we have.
It's a geostationary communications, from what Alex was saying there, Funky Flex. This booster previously supported Starlink's Axiom, 2 Starlinks, Axiom, and Inspiration 4, GPS 5 and GPS 4. Cool.
See, that's the.
Oh, we're getting a little venti boy action down there.
And then the apogee, it's usually around the same altitude as the geostationary orbit, but we can probably discuss later that there's differences here depending on the mission. So we'll probably discuss about that later, I think. And sure. Yeah, that is all I think about the mission. There's more stuff, but I think anyone else can probably add about that.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that geostationary transfer orbit missions used to be the bread and butter of what SpaceX did, and we were here for many of them, multiple times a month. And this is the first one in a long while. It's the first one this calendar year for SpaceX. That is for sure. So, a bit of a different mission from what we've been used to, but one that they have a lot of experience in. And yeah.
Very cool. Chris actually took the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say that, but yeah. First GTO mission of the year. And like Chris said, there used to be a lot of these missions. If you guys remember, if you were watching SpaceX back between, say, 2016 and 2019.
Tell them about sinusoidal demand launch markets.
GTO
Come on, Ian.
But now, like Chris said, it's been about 6 months since our last one. I think the last was a Turksat 5B in last November or December or something. So it's been a while.
It was indeed Turksat 5B, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of showing how there's been a slump in GTO satellites.
It's
and
the focal
because
length,
over
Mars.
the course of, like I said, 2016 to 2019, a lot of ComSat operators were launching their satellites then. Now all their satellites are up. There's very few that need to be launched now, but very cool to see kind of how the commercial market works.
The commercial launch market has a sinusoidal demand. That was part of the reason why we don't have, like, a healthy commercial spaceflight market, because every 10 to 15 years, guys, the demand for satellites, communication satellites, spikes. It goes up. It goes through the roof, and it goes through the roof for like 3 or 4 years, and then it goes back down. Why does this happen? Because commercial rockets and launching a lot of commercial missions really became a thing during the dot-com era in the 90s. Okay, so 95, 96, 97. They were anticipating huge commercial markets, and they launched satellite phones, satellite radio, stuff like that. A lot of satellites being all launched in a very short time span. And then the demand went because of the dot-com bubble bursting in the 90s. The dot-com bubble burst, and all of these tech companies that wanted to launch all these satellites had no money to do it anymore. So the demand went, and the demand went down so bad that Lockheed and Boeing were planning on basically just pulling out of the commercial market entirely. That, and they were spying on each other. There's a little bit of corporate espionage there. So what Uncle Sam did is made them, by the mid-2000s, the demand dried up so hard, Uncle Sam made them merge. Made Lockheed Space Division and Boeing Space Division merge, or at least the launching division. They made them merge into one company. That company is called ULA. Yeah, true story. So, because the demand dried up, because of the dot-com bubble bursting, now the demand kind of comes and goes every 5 to 10 years. So, you take, late 90s, early 2000s, 10 to 15 years, right? You start seeing these satellites need to be replenished, and that's where SpaceX made a huge amount of money off of that sinusoidal demand by undercutting everybody with a cheaper reusable rocket, right? So 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, that was when everybody decided to replenish because their satellites were running out of fuel, or they were just old, or the tech needed to be replaced. So that sinusoidal demand was the reason for the longest time why nobody wanted to make a reusable rocket. Because you don't want to make a reusable rocket that you reuse for 5 years and then it sits in its hangar for 10. That makes no sense. The cost of maintaining it will outweigh the reusability of it. That's why expendable launch vehicles have been a thing for a long time, and that's also the reason why there's such a stigma towards reuse, even to this day, which is still strange to me. But anyway, SpaceX got a huge part of the market by grabbing all that commercial. They particularly did. I mean, they didn't get at ULA. ULA has defense contracts, but who they did get at was like Arianespace and Soyuz. They cut into the Russian and European launch market hard, like really hard. So whether 60% go, got it. So, and now since big geo satellites can last 20 plus years, they don't need to replace that often anymore. Bingo. So the demand for the longest time becomes sinusoidal. It goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down, and that's basically how it's been dipping since the 90s, right? So you don't see that many geostationary transfer launches anymore. That's what the guys at NSF, that's what my buddy Ian was talking about. Definitely bubbly weather out today. Cape looking clear. It looks hazy as heck. That's like 100% humidity, isn't it, WD? I mean, what day isn't in Florida? But it's good to see you, man. Yeah, they canned ILS. Exactly, Phil. Yeah, so, I know what people are going to ask. Well, okay, EJ, if that's the case, well, then how does SpaceX still make money with their reusable rocket? Starlink. Starlink is the solution. That was SpaceX's idea to make the launch market not sinusoidal. That was an idea to make the launch market grow at a linear rate. And that changes everything. It changes everything now. Now Falcon 9 can launch once a week because there's always Starlink satellites that need to be put up. And then, even when the constellation is completed, these Starlink satellites are not designed to last very long. They didn't make these satellites last longer. They're not designed to last as much. So now you have to keep maintaining the network. That can make it so you can keep upgrading your satellites, and then you can maintain a bigger and bigger fleet of satellites. And if something does go wrong, the satellites are in a low orbit, they just deorbit. They just come back down. Jam! 87-month resub and tech gifted a sub to Dr. WD40. Thank you. So SpaceX is trying to take that sinusoidal curve. They've been trying to do this for years and trying to make it nice and linear. So there's always a demand. So a reusable rocket, and then later down the road, a fully reusable rocket actually makes sense. And Starlink, well, I mean, if Starlink goes off if that thing even captures like a fraction of a percentage of global telecommunications, I mean, that's going to be way more profitable than what it costs to launch them into space, don't you think? It's actually a really, really, really smart idea. You know, oh, there's not much demand for this? Fine, I'll just make my own demand. I'm just going to make my own commercial launch market with blackjack and Starlinks. That's literally what they did. But every once in a while, we still do get to see just a regular Falcon 9 GTO launch. This is what ruled the market 5 years ago. Now you don't even see them coming. They barely even see them anymore. I love the smell of rocket propellant in the morning. Do you think Starship will eventually be used to launch Starlink? The first orbital flight test chief is going to launch Starlinks. Yep. How many customers will Starlink need to become profitable? I don't know, J-Speed. I've said, like, okay, if you think about it's an interconnected world, right? And I'm not about to hey, WD40, have the sub to Jan. Thanks for paying it forward, man. So flatten the curve. Weird taste in mouth? What taste, Baz? You think that's air you're breathing now? It was a terrible joke and you should feel bad. But I played along with it. But anyway, so not to go off on a corporate speak tangent here, but I mean, dude, we're interconnected everywhere. Think about all the people that don't have internet because they're out in the sticks, or have like a 56K option out in the sticks. We're talking about untapped markets here. There's millions of people on this planet, quite literally, that could benefit from a Starlink if they make it affordable. And if I was SpaceX, I would make it affordable so everyone can buy it. And then you have a subscription service, so you know, you'll make money back via the subscription service, right? Like, that's pretty straightforward stuff. I mean, Amazon does stuff like that all the time. You know, it's free, right? Oh, but then you have to pay down the road. Like, that's not a bad way to do things, considering you can get internet literally anywhere. I mean, think about all the people out there, like, even in North America, that could benefit from that. That is unreal. You're bringing infrastructure to places where ISPs have no business running a line, because it's not, you know, like the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure running it out there wouldn't make any sense. But with Starlink, it's just up there. You mean it make no sense? It's already there. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think if SpaceX like even gets 1% of telecommunications, I think Elon will become a trillionaire very quickly. Very quickly. Very quickly. Far. Nice. The cable lines literally stop 5 miles from my dad's place. Yeah. I live in a semi-rural area of California and could really use Starlink. The speeds here suck. And Lucky Charms, I think that's the best way that's the best kick in the pants towards ISPs, because they're going to have to compete. So Elon is killing two birds with one stone. Like, he's simultaneously trying to get internet everywhere, and then he's gonna make ISPs look stupid. It's kind of funny, actually. I mean, dude, and also just literally figure out Pandora's box for a commercial launch market. Like, that is the I mean, Elon says rapid reusability is the holy grail, right? Oh, this holy grail. I think flattening the demand for, instead of making it like this, flattening the demand and having an ever-increasing demand for launch market really is SpaceX's kind of lasting gift. The entire commercial launch market exists because, you know, SpaceX showed that you could make money off of it. Firm believer. Like, that's definitely why they exist. We want to have demand like this, not like this. Okay? Especially here in Cali, where ISPs monopolize certain neighborhoods so they don't have competition. Bingo. Yeah, Lucky Charms, you're going to make them look real stupid. And you know what? That's going to be nice. So, check it out. Going back over to the Falcon 9 footage, they're doing a purge down here. What does that mean? So if you look, there's condensation coming from this part of the TE right there.
Hey, I'm gonna let the rocket finish, but I just got a call from the mortgage guy that we're clear to close. So...
Oh. Oh.
I just wanted to come tell you
Oh.
that.
Well, that was good news. Shoot.
Discovery, go at throttle.
Well, that news doesn't suck. All right, are we happy?
I just thought I'd tell you. Like,
That's freaking awesome. That's freaking awesome, man. Oh.
we do be hapto. That's right.
That's pretty cool. I'm attacked by a 100-foot woman. Yeah, thanks, guys.
I mean, we don't technically own the home yet.
I'm not getting excited until that key is in my hand.
We have not signed any paperwork, chat. But clear to close is the last sign off from the mortgage company. So, that's a pretty big deal.
Boom. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, trust. Yeah, it should be pretty good. Just think, you'll have a yard to mow. I'm looking forward to that. But EJ paid someone. Wait, what?
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 I don't know.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. Thanks for telling me.
All right, have fun with your rocket.
Okay. I will. Wait. Ilya. Now you get to wire an uncomfortably large amount of money to a hopefully not random bank account. Oh, we're past that already, robots, dude. We already did that part. That part sucked. Oh. Okay, well, the first stage is being fueled right there. That's the condensation down low. And then that purge that you saw from the top up there, what that was is them purging out the fuel lines to the second stage. What SpaceX tries to do is time it so the first and second stage both get fully topped off right when they're ready to go for liftoff. So you see that thing is kicking out all the air out of the lines. They're bleeding the lines, and then they're going to start running the fuel up there. And when they run the liquid oxygen in RP1 into the second stage, actually it's more just liquid oxygen. I think the RP1 might already be in there. They try to time it so the first and second stage top at the exact same time. Fleet cam. Oh, we're way past that, Jerry. Yeah, Foo Face, don't worry, we'll be all right. SpaceX is online. All right, let's flip over. That was my buddies over at NSF, NASA Spaceflight, and now we're gonna switch over to SpaceX proper. Well. So, yeah, you'll see that line purge out again when the second stage is fully fueled. They'll do a purge at like T-minus 30 seconds. They'll pump nitrogen up those lines to inert the lines and get all the liquid oxygen out of them. But that chill down is a good indicator that we're going to see something fly today. Hey, Jay, how's it going? I'm digging the stash. Looking good. Thanks, Azal. Appreciate it. Who's Jerry? Well, isn't that your name, Jerry? Hey, human. Anyway, so there was a lot of tags in there. Don't forget to swap the locks out when you move. Yeah, okay. Thanks for all the kind words. And Goth, thank you for the 10 subs, man. I appreciate it. It's hard to hear Brimo when the sub alerter's coming through, so I muted it. Barefoot, thank you. So, yeah, Phil, we're pretty damn close. Yeah. Congrats, I don't know what it means, but it's good. Yeah, we're 90... I've been saying we're 99 or 98% of the way there, username. Now we're 99% of the way there. We just gotta close. That should happen in week and a half.
Discovery, go at
Stolfar, 6-month resub. I once ate at the restaurant that cameras had and saw the actual fleet cam. My parents were so confused as I kept nudging them and telling them to look at the random camera on the roof. I see you retired the old Razer headset. It finally broke, Sleepy, but I could fix it. Yeah, I could fix it, dude. I just gotta go solder it. Just haven't gotten around to doing it. I've been busy. Hey, Ren, what's going on? You're just in time for a rocket launch. We should get... SpaceX should be popping up with NILESAT coverage here momentarily. Oh, the bank clearing us to close is huge, dude. That's freaking huge. Can't believe that. Thanks, G-Punky. I mean, it wasn't just me. Brimo and I have been both working at it for a long time, dude. It's a long time coming. Taking time off for the closing moving celebration mental break. Time off?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
What is this time off? I don't know what that means. Dude, I'm telling you, Orion, my boss is a real jerk. I only get like a week off, a week of vacation, like cumulatively every year. The boss is a real jerk. How much are the closing costs gonna be? Sleepy, they were up there. They were above 20 G's. I'm just gonna say that. I don't want to be too specific. Just because I'm like worried that I'm gonna jinx something. I mean, you have to take a day off at least for closing. Yeah. Ren, 2-month resub. I always forget about my Prime. Well, thank you. Logian is continuing the sub they got from Wheat. Thanks, Logian. I appreciate it. You should talk to him about that. I can't, Canadian. He's a dick. So 21K. Got it. No, it was more than that. New landing legs, Falcon 9 launch, house approval. Not a bad day so far. Yeah. Thanks, T-Man. Oh, man, thanks for the 2 subs, dude. I appreciate it. Stage a walkout. That only hurts me. No, fellas, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm probably going to need some time to move. Yeah, I might need a week, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we're going to need some time for that. Oh, here we go. Your vacation request is denied, but it's more than 2 weeks out. Yeah, Jack, 14-month resub.
Go for launch.
Here we go. Oh, that's nice. I like that. I like that. I like that too. Wow.
Dragon, separation confirmed.
Oh, yeah, Sleepy, I gotta get 2 automobiles from my parents' house, so that's probably gonna be difficult. Hey, we did that. That's all us, man. We did that today. That's all us, man. We did that.
Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, June 8th, and you're looking at a live view of
that
AT waiting liftoff, currently scheduled at 5:04
Andy's got the cast today. Thanks for the bits, guys. I appreciate it.
My name is Andy Tran, and I'm a quality engineer here at SpaceX. Welcome to the webcast for the NILESAT-301 mission. NILESAT-301 is a communication satellite that was designed and manufactured by Millennium Space.
Thank you.
Provide
Thanks for the
broadband
5
services
subs.
to Egypt and neighboring countries in the Middle East and North Africa. Before we learn more about today's mission and payload, let's take a closer look at the Falcon 9 vehicle supporting today's mission. Falcon 9 is our two-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle and stands
over there on the right.
230 feet tall. That
Those
is
are
greater
anvils.
than the wingspan of a 747
It's raining
aircraft.
it's raining like
Starting from the
crazy
bottom of
over
the
there.
vehicle,
Look
we
at
have
that.
Our first stage, which is the largest part of Falcon 9. As the name
Dang,
suggests,
man.
Falcon 9
Orlando's
has
getting
9
wailed on.
Merlin or M1D engines at the bottom of the first stage, and this allows it to accelerate through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. The dark soot that you see around the lower part of the first stage are remnants from its 6 previous launches.
Thanks for the 5
After
subs.
lifting off for the 7th time today, we'll attempt to recover our first stage again on our
That's right, winner.
you see on screen.
You're not wrong.
It's named Just
Bimbo.
Read the Instructions. Today's launch will mark the 156th Falcon 9 launch overall and the 116th Falcon 9 first stage landing. Above the first stage, we have the black carbon fiber inner stage that connects the first and second stages.
Hey, Templar.
The inner stage has pneumatic pushers that help the first and second stages separate, and it also houses our Merlin vacuum engine on our second stage that will take our payload to its desired orbit. Above the inner stage and second stage, at the very top of Falcon 9, we have the payload fairing. And as you may have guessed, this is the structure that protects our payload until we reach the vacuum of space.
Thank you.
It's made up of 2 carbon fiber pieces that come together to encapsulate the NILESAT-301 satellite. And once we're in the vacuum of space, the 2 pieces will then separate from one another and begin their journey back to Earth. Like our first stage, we will be attempting to recover these fairing halves to fly again in the future as well. For now, let's learn a little bit about our payload flying on board Falcon 9 today, the NILESAT-301 satellite designed and manufactured by Thales Alenia Space.
Those are thunderstorms over there in the background.
25 years have passed since the birth of the NILESAT company. The dream began with the launch of the first Egyptian satellite, NILESAT-101, in 1998, manufactured by the French company Matra Marconi, and immediately followed in 2000 by the second Egyptian satellite, NILESAT-102, manufactured by the same company. The 2 satellites were launched by the French company Arianespace. NILESAT-201 was built and launched in 2010 with a capacity of 26 transponders in the Ku band and 4 transponders in the Ka band. The world is witnessing a technological leap in the field of satellites, and NILESAT has always been ahead of its time. NILESAT has kept pace with huge technological developments in recent years, and in 2016 launched specialized technical, economic and marketing studies. NILESAT-301. A contract has been signed with the French partner Thales Alenia Space for the 3rd generation of satellites NILESAT-301 to be launched from Florida in the United States using rockets from the American SpaceX company. In a positive mutual relations and cooperation with the American partners. The new Egyptian satellite NILESAT-301 is unique and distinguished, exceeding the capabilities of all previous and current satellites. NILESAT-301 contains 38 transponders in the Ku band, in addition to 6 new transponders in the Ka band for broadband internet provision over the Republic of Egypt. Digital broadband in the new frequency bands extended Ku, used for the first time in the Middle East and Africa, adding new technologies which will be available for the first time to NILESAT customers, like anti-jamming on different frequencies, the ability to identify the source of interference accurately, broader coverage areas, Nile Basin countries, Southern Africa countries with continued coverage of the current regions of the Middle East.
I like the music. The music is hype.
NILESAT-301, meeting the needs and aspirations of the Arab and African family through more than 50 million viewing points. These are the NILESAT customers.
Rotorbund, great
NILESAT,
company.
The satellite of the Arab and African families. NILESAT.
Shukran, NILESAT. Shukran.
So we are just under 5 minutes and counting. At this point, we are getting word that the team is tracking a potential flight issue. For now, we're going to continue to count down as the
big
team works,
freaking thunderstorm that's right there.
See
that?
If we do find something that might hinder the mission, we will be stopping the countdown. But for now, we're going to continue forward We just heard the call out.
That was awesome.
The Strongback is beginning its sequences to retract. First up is going to be
just
the
experienced
clamp arms underneath the fairing halves. Those will open up. And then
guys, you just experienced NILESAT, all right? We don't launch NILESAT, you experience NILESAT, okay?
Pre-launch position, about 2 degrees away.
But yeah, guys, that is a nasty anvil cloud over there. See it? So anvil clouds are, well, clouds that are shaped like anvils. See that? Thunderstorm. Especially the darker stuff over here. It is raining like crazy over there. So, like the clouds, tell you, I mean, I lived in Florida. There's always low-lying clouds in Florida that are about this high right there. See that? When it looks like the clouds go all the way down to the ground, the reality of the situation is that it's crapping out so much water, it's the nice big blur. So this thing needs to go, and it needs to go, like, they should probably get this done sooner rather than later. That is a gigantic thunderstorm. It is about to pour. That is the summertime afternoon shower in Florida. This literally happens every day.
We're nearly full on both stages. Falcon 9's first and second stages use the same 2 propellants.
Nothing NILESAT-301 can't handle.
We use RP1 or Rocket Propellant 1, and as our oxidizer, we use super chilled.
Yeah, see, look at the difference in light.
We also refer to that as MOX. The liquid oxygen is chilled well below its boiling point, and that increases its density, allowing us to load more into the first and second stage MOX tanks. In addition to these 2 payloads, these 2 propellants,
if you like
we also
the weather in Florida, wait 30 minutes.
Stands for triethyl aluminum and triethyl borane as an ignition source. The combustion of RP1 and LOX is what makes the rocket go, but it's TTAB that sets the match to the propellant mix. So if you imagine a barbecue with charcoal and air, until you actually light a match to it, you won't get any tasty food, or in our case, you won't get liftoff.
Now I'm hungry. Hey, Tape, thanks for the sub.
2.5 minutes until liftoff. If you've been following social media, you know that we started the day with about a 40% probability of violating launch weather requirements. It's actually reduced down to 20% now. We're primarily looking at the cumulus and anvil clouds, which are typical in summer afternoon weather patterns in Florida. But
anvil
aside from
clouds,
that, the launch vehicle, satellite, and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff at 5:04 p.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40.
That is a big thunderstorm over there. Oh, that's a big one. Look at that guy over there. Okay, yeah, yeah, they're probably good that they get this done now.
Stage 2 lock flow complete.
There's plenty, Templar. What part of Europe?
So with that call out of stage 2 launch flow complete,
you're sitting under that?
Last of propellant loading for both stages on our vehicle, so we are fully topped off.
Road bend.
And ready to lift off in about 90 seconds.
There you go. There's the purge. So they're getting all the liquid. They got a gas closeout. They're getting all the liquid oxygen out of the TE.
To build up around the vehicle. That is normal and expected for us at this time in the liftoff.
Hey, Horizon Side. Thanks for the raid, man. Appreciate it, buddy. We're just ready to see some combustion here. Raiders are just in time. We're 1 minute out from the NILESAT-301 launch. SpaceX. It's going out of the Cape, but you got to be careful. There's a big thunderstorm over there.
Now that we are in
we'll see if it goes. Ready to
zoom. Now beginning to pressurize for launch.
All right. They'll close the vents, and then you'll hear
Falcon 9, NILESAT-301, LD is go for launch.
That.
The launch director is a go for launch. We are working no issues at this time on the vehicle or payload. Let's listen in for the liftoff of NILESAT-301.
Oxidizer makes things blow up really nicely, Builder. You don't really want it near anything. Also, it's super corrosive. Simba! 25 months. Let's go, Falcon. All right. 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
You should see the sound suppression system turn on here. They should prime it, and then there should be water jets coming out here.
9, 8.
There they go.
6, 5.
Sound suppressor is on. Pad deluge.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Active. All right, we're flying today. Here we go. Very nice. Very nice. Look at the sound. You see this? Do you see the sound screwing with the clouds? Yeah, that's the sound doing that. That's how loud it is. It can cause pressure waves that you can actually see. Did you see it? Pretty cool, huh? This is the 5th one for this, Tessa, I think. It's either the 5th or the 6th. This one launched people. This one launched Axiom 1 and Inspiration 4. And 2 GPS satellites and 2 Starlink missions. So
T plus 40 seconds into the mission.
Yeah, 6. Hey, Razor. Thanks for the sub, man. Welcome to Mission Control. You go with throttle up.
Carrying the NILESAT
Sorry, the R's got me confused. I'm like, raid sub, raise.
Right now we are throttling down the first stage engines in
Glass
preparation
45.
for a period
Thanks,
known
man.
as max Q. This is where we'll experience the highest amount of aerodynamic pressures on the vehicle.
Oh, hello. Hey, Racer. Where will the first stage land? Drone ship. Oh, what a
Q. Now that we've passed max Q, we are now bringing those
what
engines
a
back
shot.
up to full power. In about a minute, we have a couple of events happening in quick succession. First up will be main engine cutoff, also known as MECO, followed by stage separation, and then SES1, also known as
BEA-utiful, or is it TEA-utiful?
Main engine cutoff, those 9 engines will shut off during stage
yeah,
separation.
See, look at that thunderstorm. That's a big thunderstorm right there.
SES1 or second
they just snuck out.
Will have that single Merlin vacuum.
They just snuck out of the Cape.
Stage. It will ignite and continue to carry the NILESAT-301 satellite to
that's
its
a big
targeted
thunderstorm, man.
orbit.
I'm in danger.
Shortly after we
look,
see ignition
the Cape
of
is the only area that's
engine,
clear.
We are expecting those fairing halves to deploy and exposing, again, that NILESAT-301 satellite to the vacuum of space.
That means clean landing footage, yeah, right? Yeah, that's a gnarly big anvil cloud right there. You see how big that thing is, Jono? It's
really cool ground shots.
It's raining
vehicle.
a lot.
Coming up on main engine cutoff in a few seconds here.
Hey, night. Yeah, Couch, they're getting a little wrecked. Roger, Tranquility, copy on the ground.
Stage separation.
Thanks, Night. There's the SEP. Upper stage ignition looks good.
So we got
Deep Days, 613 sub. Thank you.
Successful stage separation. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen.
Oh yeah, Missouri. Yeah.
Engine on the second stage has indeed reignited, or not reignited.
Wait, which Eagle has landed?
And
none. Birds don't exist.
Our payload to its drop-off orbit. So coming up, we'll have fairing deploy.
Everything look good here.
In about 5 or so seconds.
That's my alerter. Tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility, with copy on the ground. Stand by for fairing.
Separation confirmed.
Boop. Goodbye.
And there you see it. The 2 fairing halves have separated and
Very
are falling
nice.
away from the vehicle, now exposing the NILESAT-301 satellite. As a reminder, again, we are going to be attempting to recover those fairing halves with the help of our recovery vessel, Doug.
Doug?
For now, we're about 4 minutes into the mission. Things are looking great. So you have a couple of views on screen. On the left-hand side is a view from the top of the first stage, looking down. It is making its way back to our drone ship. Just read the instruction.
Find the drone ship, Doug, and then we're gonna land.
And on the right-hand side, again, is the view of the Merlin vacuum engine. On the opposite side of that engine is the NILESAT-301 satellite.
What's the cost on those fairings? They're obviously worth recovering.
We're currently in the first.
Believe it or not, the reason why they recover the fairings actually isn't cost, Couch. It's a manufacturing bottleneck. Any Factorio players here? There's always one thing that takes freaking way too long to freaking make. The fairings are a carbon fiber and aluminum honeycomb mesh. So you think about, like, you have an outer layer of carbon fiber and then there's aluminum honeycomb in there. And then you have carbon fiber on the inside of it too. That's how they make the fairings. It's made on a big mandrel, and that they have to wind it, and it takes freaking forever to do it. And then on top of that, you know, you have your outer layer, you have your inner layer, and you have your aluminum, right? You have to bake it like a cookie. Fairings actually have to go into a gigantic easy bake oven. Now, it's called an autoclave. It cooks stuff at very high pressure. It's a gigantic pressure cooker. Nice shot. I think that's looking up at the sun from the first stage. So the fairings actually take a long time to make. They're not expensive to make. They just take a long time to make because you have to bake the damn thing. Baked, right? So SpaceX figured out that it was literally easier to develop a recovery system for the fairing than try to optimize the bottleneck in production. That's why they recovered the fairings. They're actually not expensive. Keep in mind, they're not expensive for SpaceX. They're like $4 to $5 million a pop or something like that. That's nothing compared to a $40 million first stage or like a $15 million second stage, right? Like, that's nothing. It's a really, really small cost. They just take a long time to make. That's why SpaceX recovers them. SpaceX won this one.
Talked a little bit about the engines and the different engines on the
Rocket,
vehicle.
exactly.
On the right-hand side of the screen, that is the Merlin vacuum engine. It's optimized to perform in the vacuum of space and can produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust. The engines on the first stage,
I would hope so.
Are
stage 1 entry burn startup.
Optimized.
Okay,
to
here we
perform
go.
At sea level.
My favorite part. So the reason the first stage is clearly up in space right now, and it's going to start hitting the atmosphere again. You see that little haze right there, the blue gradient? That's the atmosphere. That's gas. That's light refracting off gas in the atmosphere. That's why it gives that little hazy thing, the hazy effect right there. So when you hit the atmosphere, you start compressing air. And when you start compressing air, that air, if you compress it too much, it gets too hot. And then the air molecules don't know what to do, and they literally rip apart. When they rip apart, they ionize and it releases plasma. It makes plasma, and that plasma releases a lot of heat. That's what re-entry heating is. Falcon 9, with its first stage, all it does is just shoot rocket engines at that heat to get it to go away. Yeah, literally that's what it does. That's why that's my favorite part. No, we're not fighting fire with fire here. We are fighting plasma with fire. It's the most metal thing I've ever heard. Well, chemical metal, not metal. You get the idea. That's cool. I think that's really neat. That's its heat shield. Falcon 9, when it comes back in, it shoots its engines at the plasma, and the plasma gets pushed out and away. That's the heat shield, the rocket engine firing. I think that is the coolest thing. I've watched so many Falcon 9 launches to the point where chat's like, oh, this is EJ's favorite part. He said supersonic retropropulsion. I still think it's the coolest thing ever. We're literally shooting fire at plasma to get the plasma to go away. That's cool. That's freaking legit, dude.
Expected loss of signal, Cape. Stage 1 landing burn.
Okay, landing burn.
We did get confirmation.
Shut up and say the word!
Second engine cut off, and we've also begun the landing burn on the first stage.
Nominal orbit insertion.
We got NOI on the second stage.
So that call out for nominal orbital insertion is what we're waiting for the second stage. Again, it is now parked and in its coast phase. So here we're going to see if we can land this first stage for the 7th time on our drone ship.
All right.
And there we have it. That is SpaceX's 116th successful Falcon 9 first stage landing, as well as SpaceX's 99th mission flying a reflown Falcon booster.
I guess it landed.
Our mission isn't over just yet. The second stage is now embarking on its coast phase between the first and second burns of the MVAC
supersonic
engine.
teleportation.
After the coast phase, we will relight the MVAC engine
fake.
for a second time, a little bit after the T+, 26 minute mark. So we'll see you back here in about 20 seconds. In the meantime, we'll leave you with some space tunes.
20 seconds? All right. He meant 20 minutes, I think. Ten seconds. Come back in a second here.
I'm going for a walk.
Okay, bye-bye. Supersonic encabulation, yes. Retro encabulation. Hey, Alex. For good this time. I'm 2 hours from you, if I recall correctly. 2 hour time zone. 2 hour time zone, though, right? Any second. He'll be back. Any second now. Okay. This looks to be due about a 90-degree flight azimuth out of the Cape. So, alright, I'm going to nerd out here for a second. They launched due east out of KSC, or, well, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So what you're going to see here is most likely a super synchronous insertion. What does that mean? Well, basically because you launch from Florida, and this thing needs to be near the equator. The equator is down here, and Florida's up here. So if you launch east out of the Cape, you're going to end up being in a tilted orbit relative to the equator that's equivalent to the north latitude of where you took off from. So, look, the equator's down here somewhere, right? Florida is 27.5, or Cape Canaveral is 27.5 degrees due north. So if you launch due east out of the Cape, you're going to get put into a 27.5 degree inclination, meaning that the tilt of your orbit is going to be 27 degrees off of the equator. It's going to be tilted 27 degrees. So, what SpaceX needs to do now is, with this burn, they're going to have to correct that tilt. And how they would normally do this is basically boost the orbit a lot higher than where the satellite needs to go. The reason why you want to do that is because, well, long story short, SpaceX needs to, the satellite or the rocket at some point needs to take a big left turn whenever they cross the equator. They got to turn left at Albuquerque. No, you have to get into the right insertion orbit. Once again, the equator is a line that's close to this red line right here. Look at the difference. You got to take a huge left turn. It's easier to take that left-hand turn when you're further away from Earth. Why? Well, you're out of the grav well. There's less gravitational pull out there. Also, you ideally want to turn when your potential energy is maximized, meaning the highest point in your orbit. So they'll probably shoot this past where the satellite needs to go, and the satellite will sail out to that orbit when it's going slower, when potential energy is maximized and kinetic energy is the lowest, basically when it's not going fast. And they'll make that left-hand turn when it's going slower. Why? Easier to turn when you're going slower. If you go to a stop sign, stop and then take a turn, you can take a really tight turn. If you're going 160 kph, you blow the stop sign, you try to take a turn, the car's going to go straight. Momentum still exists, even if you're up in space. That's still a thing. So, we'll see when they burn if they're going to try and weed out that inclination a little bit. It'll look like the stage is kind of flying sideways a little bit. It's going to be hard to tell. But we'll see if the satellite or the stage is going to have to make up for that inclination. My guess is it's probably the satellite. But if the rocket has the fuel, it would be better if the rocket did it. The reason why is because with the rocket, well, the rocket using all the fuel is no problem. If the satellite uses fuel, the less amount of fuel that a satellite can use, the longer the satellite can last. The reason is because of what's called orbital perturbations. I'd like to how it explains satellites floating up in their right orbits. I mean, they stay on this similar schedule for the longest time, but a satellite with a really precise antenna, right, is going to need to be it's going to need to be able to basically stay pointed right at the same direction all the time. The thing about space is that there's perturbing forces everywhere. The moon, every time the moon comes by, it's going to pull you in one direction, just like it does with our oceans. Does that happens, right? And then, if Mars comes near, or when you're on the close side, when you're near the sun, it's going to pull you that way. The moon's going to pull you one way. Mars is going to pull you another. Jupiter, Neptune, all the planets will screw with the satellite's orbit. So the satellite needs these thrusters. How I like to describe it is a buoy. Picture a buoy in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Unless you can tie it to something, it's just going to float around with the currents. Space kind of works like that. It's kind of similar, but it's in kind of 3 dimensions instead of like 2, right? So the less fuel that the satellite can use, the better. So I'm interested to see what type of insertion burn they're going to do here. If they kind of try to weed out that inclination, or if the satellite's going to do it. Now, if the satellite was going to do it, SpaceX would shoot for a higher insertion apogee. What does that mean? Well, you see that altitude number over there? They would make that go higher than where the satellite needs to be because the satellite will be going slower out there. And once again, easier to turn when you're going slower. It's more efficient that way, right? So I'm interested to see what they're going to do here. Isn't this a TV sat? It's telecommunications. Shouldn't this go to Geo and not Leo? Yeah, there's this second stage burn that they're going to do. They're in a parking orbit right now. This should be super synchronous transfer. SAT is only 3,900 kilos. Yep. How much delta V does the second stage have? Well, Granitas, that entirely depends. That entirely depends on, well, payload mass. Think about it. Is your car going to get good fuel economy if you're hauling a 100-pound anvil in the back? It might. It's not going to get as good a fuel economy because it has to do more work. It has to move more things. So your range, the range of your car will change depending on what's in the car. Rockets are the same way. It's all just physics. Only in space they go a lot faster. But yeah, the delta V of that second stage entirely depends on the satellite. Now I'm sure somebody could crunch the numbers and figure it out. But I'm gonna go ahead and say there's at the very least, I don't know, what's the delta V requirements in meters a second for Geo? I think it's like 4 or 5 kilometers a second or something like that. Speed staying the same, lost connection? Yeah. When the numbers over there don't change, that means they're in a signal blackout. The signal should be coming back soon. So let's see where she goes.
Discovery, go at
Hey, Celerate 5313 sub. Could you launch east from the Cape and hold an orbit at that latitude? No. No, Couch. No. That's not how orbits work. You're orbiting around the center of gravity of Earth. Your orbit basically has to be more or less centered over Earth's grav well. So if you took Earth and you put it in the Kerbal Space Program Editor and you hit the center of mass button, every orbit would be around that with a little bit of an exception, okay? Every orbit consists of 2 focal points, okay? You're in a perfectly circular orbit when the foci coincide. Basically, when they're over each other, that means you're in a circularized orbit. But if you want to boost and go and do an elliptical orbit, the 2 focus points get further and further apart, right? One of them is the center of gravity of Earth. The other is kind of the center of your orbit. The more eccentric your orbit gets, the more those 2 focal points go away from each other until you're at escape velocity. So, because one of the focal points is always because of how gravity works, because the grav well, one of those focal points is always around the center of gravity on your planet. So you can't really have an orbit that stays in the northern hemisphere. Every orbit is going to have to go from northern to southern hemisphere at some point because the center of gravity of Earth is near the equator. Now, Couch, you want me to really blow your mind? The center of gravity of Earth isn't directly in the dead center of Earth. So if you took Earth as a volume, right, and you tried to find the center of mass, it's actually offset from the North and South Pole. Just slightly. That's the reason why Earth does this. When it's spinning around, it kind of does this. It has that tilt. That excess motion that's created from Earth's center of mass and Earth being a non-uniform sphere causes precessions of orbits, which is really weird stuff. Basically, gravity on one side of Earth is non-uniform, so it pulls you in one direction. That's another perturbing force that you have to take into account when you fly. It's way, like, Kerbal makes it so easy. It's way more difficult than you think. No, fool. It's not at the dead center. That's why our planet's wobbling around like this. Like, think about it. If you took an egg and you threw it up in the air, what's the egg going to do? It's going to weeble wobble all over the place. It isn't going to spin like like the Globetrotters with the basketball, right? It's not going to spin like that. No. It's going to weeble wobble all over the place like a big Jello mold, because it's basically what it is. Now explain the moon's gravity. Well, the moon is the same way. The moon has a non-uniform gravitational pull, which is very strange. Well, it's not really strange. This happens all the time. You're not going to get a perfect sphere in space. It's impossible. I mean, no, it's not impossible. It could happen, but not in our solar system. I hate Jello. Oh, come on, man. There's always room for Jello. So, you know what's like interesting? Certain satellites use that non-uniform gravitational pull. It's called a precessional force. They use that to stay in orbit, or they use that to change their orbit. There's a type of orbit called a sun-synchronous orbit, which is not what we're doing here. This is not a sun-synchronous orbit. There's a type of orbit called sun-synchronous, basically where they put the satellite into a slightly offset polar orbit, a slightly retro polar orbit, and basically as the satellite goes around every time, Earth's non-uniform gravitational pull moves the orbit just a little bit. It's so crazy that they figured out ways to get a satellite to go over the same spot at the same time every day. The precession is 365 days to have the orbit spin all the way around the Earth. So those sun-synchronous orbits are where Earth observation satellites are. So like a spy satellite, like the satellites you see in the movies, like, oh, we have another coming into range now. That's where those satellites are. They use Earth's precession to keep the satellite up in orbit and make sure it flies over the same spot every day. It's really wild stuff, man. Yeah, maybe, Jono. I don't know. That Templar I try. That's why I make the big bucks here on Twitch, man. I was told there would be no math. Yeah. Fools, what we've done is, that's pretty neat. That's pretty freaking cool. I mean, the fact that we have like live pictures of a spacecraft flying through space being streamed to our computer. I mean, that's pretty neat. Well, that's pretty neat. Yeah, that's an orbit. You can tell it's an orbit because of the way it is. That's pretty neat. Actually, you guys really want a weird one? Here, James Webb Space Telescope. I got one. The James Webb Space Telescope is at Lagrangian point 2, Earth-Sun Lagrangian point 2. So there are points. You know how I said everything affects everything. So there's lunar gravity and then there's Earth's gravity. All right, and they're pulling on each other to an extent, but there is Earth's gravity is way more than the moon. It's like 6 times as much gravity as the moon. 1/6 the gravity on the moon, 1/6 the size, relatively similar density, right? So you get 1/6 the gravity. It's pretty uniform stuff in that regard. But there's actually neutral points in space where the gravity of the moon and the gravity of Earth actually cancel each other out. And you want to know what's really weird? You can orbit around that. You can have orbits around these neutral points in space, which is really cool. James Webb is orbiting around one of those points. It's orbiting around a neutral point in gravity between Earth and the sun. The reason why they did that is because they don't want the sun screwing with the pictures from James Webb. So James Webb is perpetually in a spot and it's orbiting around a neutral point in gravity where the Earth blocks the sun out constantly. It's really wild stuff. Yeah, it gets crazy up there. It's nutty. I think that's the coolest thing ever. You're orbiting around a neutral point in gravitational pull. Okay. Yeah, the Lagrangian point GIF. Yeah, you guys want to see it real quick? So, if you look at this, if that's the sun and the blue one is Earth, James Webb is orbiting around point 2. So that's Earth-Sun Lagrangian point 2. These are neutral points in gravity where the gravitational pull of different celestial bodies, so different planets or stars, can cancel each other out. It's really freaking cool. And that's why James Webb has that huge sun shield. Guess which way the sun shield is facing? It's facing towards the sun. Oh, jeez, I know, right? Like, that's crazy. Pretty cool, huh? Now, don't get me wrong. That's not where this satellite is going. This satellite is going to regular geostationary. This is geostationary transfer, and we should be getting to it here in a second. This is actually like pretty run-of-the-mill stuff for rocket launches. It's only every once in a while that you get something like James Webb, obviously, or stuff that's going to like sun synchronous orbit. Those do happen because spy satellites, obviously, or like EML1, like Lagrangian point 1, or lunar rectilinear halo orbits. Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff, but let's see what they do with this one.
NILESAT-301 satellite designed and developed by Thales Alenia Space. We're coming up on the second burn of the upper stage engine in just under 40 seconds.
That's a great
recap
picture.
What's been happening so far, we had a smooth liftoff at 5:04 p.m. Eastern Time. 2.5 minutes later, our first and second stages successfully
still heat
separated
in
from
space,
one
Otter.
another. The first
Yeah.
stage landed
Sun is that
for the
frickin'
7th
bright.
time on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, and we had a successful second stage engine cutoff. It's currently coasting right now before we again reignite that.
Yeah, reboot. I saw that.
Vacuum engine.
You don't want to know, Taco. So check it out. See how the orbit kind of changes trajectory there?
Positioned over Africa, and this burn is expected to last for about a minute. Hopefully we get some views, but depending on our acquisition of signal, we may or may not.
It's not entirely eclipsed by Earth. It is a long way away.
Here shortly that the second stage engine has indeed reignited with second engine start 2.
Space isn't cold, fools. It's in a vacuum. Differences. Vacuum, near vacuum pressure is also really cold because pressure and temperature are correlated to each other per the ideal gas law. But vacuum is not cold. Vacuum is different. Why do spy satellites need sun synchronous? I thought they were in geostationary. Well, they want to look at stuff. And you want to ideally look at stuff during the day, Templar, so they synchronize the orbit to the day using Earth's non-uniform gravitational pull. It's pretty cool. Is there a way to see everything that's currently in space? I don't know. There used to be, but that site went down.
So we are waiting waiting on some ground station coverage, so we might not be able to get confirmation of that second engine start and subsequently the second engine cutoff at this time, but give us a few minutes here. We're going to check in with the teams and hopefully get that confirmation for you.
Hang on a second. NASA tracks space junk to 3 centimeter across? Actually, Filcher, that's what Space Force does. That's what the Space Force is specifically designed for: space situational awareness and debris mitigation.
Acquisition of signal, goodbye.
The numbers didn't change.
So we are about a few minutes away from that ground station. So we should be getting confirmation of SES-2 and SECO-2 here in a couple of minutes.
They just had an AOS on the comms, Ian. Watch those numbers on the right. That number should go up to like 30,000, or what is it, 38,000 or something? If the numbers on the right change, that's when you know they have that it did it on time. Falcon 9 did the burn here when they didn't have signal. It was flying on its own inertial measurement. So basically, that's called closed loop guidance. Basically, where it takes the last point of communication and extrapolates its trajectory from there using an accelerometer, like same kind of thing that you have on your phone. So it did the burn by itself, but they need to get a radio contact with it. That telemetry is in real time, MotorKid. When it does update, it's pretty damn close to right. But hold on.
So we are expecting confirmation here in about 90 seconds. Again, as a reminder, ground station coverage is how we get data back from the vehicle. So if we have spots where we aren't connected to a ground station, we can't get that data. So as the second stage continues to orbit around the Earth, we'll wait for it to pass over ground station and get that data and confirm SES-2 and SECO-2.
Fools, how many space launches are there in the week? Well, SpaceX is trying to make it once a week, which is, I mean, that's pretty insane, dude. That's pretty ridiculous for rockets, but they're trying to make it once a week. There was supposed to be 2 SpaceX launches this week, but they had a problem. One of them was a Dragon mission that was going up to the ISS to bring food and water up there. They had some problems with the thruster. The thruster was leaking fuel. Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you. Oh, that scared me. That usually doesn't take that long. Stand by for the call for nominal orbit insertion. They don't use Starlink for loss of signal gaps? I'm not, well, apparently not.
Acquisition of signal, hard to be stuck. Nominal orbit insertion.
So there was the call that we were waiting for. So we did have a good burn and a good orbital.
So check it out, fellas. Look, see the line from where their orbit was? See the line where their orbit was? And you can see that this line right here, since they picked up the track, right? It's going slightly in a different direction, which means they did do a little bit of that left-hand turn to try and optimize fuel. Now, don't get me wrong, that number should be going down. They should be decelerating because Earth is trying to pull them back down. But the altitude is going up like crazy, which indicates high eccentricity, which means this orbit is shaped like an egg now, which is pretty much spot on for a geostationary orbit. That's good.
Complete today's mission.
They did take a little bit of a left turn reboot. So for the nerds, what that left turn is called is a radial in burn. They burned slightly prograde, slightly radial in. Angry triangle for the Kerbal players. Or no, non-angry triangle for the Kerbal players. The purple triangles. But yeah, everything seems to be good there.
Previous Egyptian satellites. Adding on to current coverage locations, the satellite will have the ability to operate 40 transponders covering new regions such as the Nile Basin countries and southern Africa. In addition to providing broadband internet all over Egypt, NILESAT-301 will be capable of frequency
50 hours a week minimum,
anti-jamming, and geolocating the source of anti-jamming. Now, in a few seconds here, we should be witnessing that NILESAT-301 satellite deploy from our second stage.
Yeah, they ain't near Albuquerque. They're near Djibouti. Djibouti. Yep. Yeah, it'll probably happen off stream, Boxy, but hey, fools. With the tier 1 sub. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Welcome to Mission Control. Your go with throttle up. My booty? Yes, your booty. Hey, there we go. Hey, look, it's got a little tiny thruster
and
on it.
There you have it. We've received and see on screen successful separation of the NILESAT-301 satellite from Falcon 9's second stage.
At what height will the device be brought out?
We are going to be bringing our webcast to a close. We're going to take some time to thank the NILESAT team for entrusting us with today's mission. And of course, to all of our viewers,
the moon's
if you're
behind
interested in more things and more updates about SpaceX, tune into our social media channels for all things SpaceX. Thanks again, and we'll see you very shortly.
Hell yeah. All right. 301 had a good deploy there. There was a little bit of a gap with that signal. But everything seems okay. What happens to the second stage? So, Boxy, I just said that they're going to do a second stage deorbit. They probably won't, because the second stage probably just used up all its fuel pushing that satellite out. But once again, here, you know what? I'll just draw it. Let's get paint out. So, here's Earth. All right. Just chilling. It's a sweet Earth, you might say. So the orbit is like this. It's in a very eccentric orbit like that. Actually, you know what? Let's just use the circle tool. That would be probably better. Falcon 9's orbit is something like this. And SpaceX, with their trajectory optimizations, make sure that the PE, or what's called a perigee, is at about 170 kilometers. Which is 90 miles. That's decaying. So, because they needed the fuel to push the AP out here to 38,000 kilometers or 23,500 miles. They needed all the fuel to push the thing out there to the apogee. They purposely put the stage in a type of orbit where 170 will decay. So what's decay? It's another perturbing force that happens. Basically, Earth has that, you know, air thing around it, right? That atmosphere that you think that's air you're breathing now. And the stage will just keep going around and around and around. And every time it goes around, it's going to hit the atmosphere a little bit. When it hits the atmosphere, it's going to slow down. Slowing down at perigee lowers your apogee. So the orbit will get lower, and then it'll 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 get lower. After every single orbit, it'll get lower and lower and lower and lower. It's going to keep dipping into the atmosphere, keep slowing it down until it eventually burns up. I think it's 36,000. Not 38,000. Yeah, screw you and your measuring system. So they burned prograde in normal, slightly Jordas from what I could tell. Yep. Yeah, they put it into that type of orbit to make sure that they're being a good environmental steward. Yeah, you don't want a lot of debris up there, or else something like, remember that movie Gravity? Something like that can happen. It's possible. But that's, once again, because so many people are launching into space, that's what the Space Force is for. That's why they made the Space Force. To track all that crap to make sure that that doesn't happen. How long is this going to take? Just about. How long is it going to take to deorbit? A month or two. Yeah, something like that. So, yeah, they probably shot it out into supersync. If it's a supersynchronous insertion, then it's probably going to take 2 to 3 months. Supersync is making that orbit even more elliptical. So, once again, you could take that left turn that I was telling you about. You could do it when you're going slower, so it costs less delta V. It literally take less fuel. When you have maximized potential energy, that's when you want to do your burn. That's the most efficient time. Yeah, so good stuff. Everything seems pretty good there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed NILESAT. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I love watching rockets launch, man. It's great. And I love talking about orbit. So orbital mechanics is cool. How stuff moves around up there is really, really interesting to me. It's really neat. But yeah, if you don't know me, I'm EJ. I like covering this stuff. I have permission from SpaceX to do it, believe it or not. I don't know how a moron like me swung that. Yeah, I actually did ask for permission. It seems like a lot of people don't do that, but whatever. Yeah, and I cover all different types of launches, all different types of stuff. Anytime there's something launching and you want to come in here, I'll put my terrible commentary over it, and maybe you'll learn something. So is the stream done? Hell no, man. Who are you? My name Jeff. My name Jeff. I hate to tell you, Eric, but I have to go to bed. Whatever. Sleeping's probably good. Use this. It's GTO launch with updates. Oh, neat. Can you explain how a barycenter orbit works? I don't know what that is. 7. I'd have let me goggle it. Let me take a look here. In astronomy, a barycenter formation is the center of mass of 2 or more bodies that orbit one another and is the point about which the bodies orbit. Oh, yeah, look at that. Yep. So, Seven, you know how I said that stuff has non-uniform gravitational pull? Sometimes the center of gravity isn't in the direct center of the sphere. So you orbit, remember, every orbit that you do, it doesn't matter if you're orbiting around something or you're the thing that something is orbiting around, it always pivots on the center of mass. So this comes from an extreme offset in gravity. That's what that does. But you always orbit around the center of mass. See? That means that this planet is fat and thick on one side, and it's not very dense on the other. Yeah, it's very strange, dude. You how my brain thinks about it is like, you think the sphere, okay, the center of mass is at the center, that's why it's spherical. No. You can have like potato-shaped planets. That's fine. Yeah, that happens. And here's the other thing, fellas. Like, you have those neutral points in gravitational pull, and you can orbit around those too. And you could, I guess you could theoretically do a barycenter orbit around a Lagrangian point if you really wanted to. I don't know why. I'm sure there's a use case for that somewhere. Or there's negative mass density, like a black hole, which you can orbit around that too. Our galaxy is doing that right now. That GIF was Pluto. Yep. Every planet orbits the barycenter of the solar system. Bingo. Yeah, that's really cool, actually. I didn't really know what that meant, but I know what it's doing. But I didn't know what that actually meant. Look at that. Look at that. What the frick? Yeah, and when I say center of gravity of all the planets, of like the center of gravity of what you're orbiting, that means everything. Like the center of gravity between the two planets. That's what a barycenter is. So if you have a planet over here that's 100 tons, right? And then you have a planet over here that's 50 tons, and they're 100 meters away from each other, or 100 kilometers away from each other. Just bear with me; these numbers suck, right? Your center of mass is going to be more on this side, and you're going to orbit around that. That's cool. That's really strange. And 7, I learned something today. I mean, it makes sense. I know why it's doing it. I get it just fine. I just never bothered to learn that. That's actually super freaking cool. Man, that's weird. Space is strange. What a strange place. What a strange place. On second thought, let's not go to space. 'Tis a silly place. No, we should go there. They dance and drink eat ham and spam a lot. Anyway, now that that's done, see last puzz. See last puzz. See last puzz. So our moon doesn't actually orbit our Earth. It orbits the barycenter. It's 1,066 miles underneath the Earth. Yeah, it's weird, 7. That's strange, dude. 'Tis a silly place. On second thought, let's not go to Camelot. I'm not dead. I feel happy. That's cool. South Korea is launching a lunar orbiter on Falcon 9 later this year, and it's making a weird trajectory. That's not a weird trajectory. When you don't have the TWR to be able to do TLI in one burn, you do it over the course of 4 months. The Bereshit orbiter did the same thing. I'm 20% here for KSB, 20% for Space News, and 60% for the movie references. I am a space streamer. Some people call me Eric? No, it's not like that. Look at the trajectory. I think he's pointing out that it's a ballistic lunar transfer like this. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, that's not what Bereshit did. Yeah, that's not what it did at all. Yeah, Wefrel, she's gone. This one professor at my campus is named Tim, and for the first time I went into his office, I saw a picture of Tim the Enchanter on his door, and I thought, I've not met this man before, but I love him already. Yep, Yeah. Some expectations are set right out of the gate, Ian, and you know. I like people that do that, so you get to know who you're dealing with, so you don't have that whole awkward phase of getting to know each other. I try to do that here by living in a van down by the river. Like, so people know what they're getting into. And, don't get me wrong, like, the vast majority of people are like, bye. But some of you stay, and that's cool. That's nice. How is this better than a straight injection? Well, Bouncy, I don't know. See, here's the thing. You look at this. Don't think, why are they doing that? How's that better than just going straight to the moon? Well, okay, there's a reason why they're doing this. And frankly, I don't know the reason. But what I do know is that people that code guidance trajectories are way smarter than me. So there is a reason why they're doing it this way. There's a reason. What's the reason? Let's figure it out. So this seems to be shooting out to an apogee that's way higher than a lunar orbit. Why would you do that? Oh, okay. This looks like it's a super synchronous orbit for lunar insertion. Yeah, lower energy transfer because you don't have to do the circularization, right? So basically you go out here, you do the burn, right? The moon will pull you back this way, kind of similar to a free return because the moon's going to be right here when they go to launch. See this turn in the trajectory that they're doing? That's going to be done from perturbing forces via the moon, and that's going to shoot them retrograde relative to the moon's orbit, right? What they'll probably do at that point is do a burn there to push perigee up to lunar altitude. So when they come back around, they're orbiting right next to the moon, and then the moon's gravity can pull them back in again. They're using retrograde gravitational perturbations here to get this thing to the moon for literally less delta V. You can find more efficient ways to do this and ride the waves of gravitational pull around in space. It usually is more efficient to do that. Think about it like a sailboat versus a boat with a motor. They're sailing through space with this. Don't get me wrong, they're not sailing. You can sail in space using solar winds. That's not what they're doing here. That's just part of the analogy. Now, see, with this, you can wait 4 months for it to get out there. That's not a problem. But if you're shooting people out to the moon, there's this thing that people need that you don't have a lot of. That's called oxygen. So it's probably better when you have people aboard to brute force it so you don't run out of that, oxygen thing. Yeah. Yeah, I see what they're doing here. I get it. That's actually really cool. You could probably do that in KSP. Yeah, that orbit could be done. Oh, too, and snacks. Yeah, pizza, of course. Translates to the trajectory difference between SLS Clipper and Falcon Heavy Clipper. Don't talk to me about that. But yeah, you're right. It's because this burn keeps it from having to do the retrograde capture burn at the moon for insertion. Yeah, they're using natural lunar gravitational pull to slow them down. The moon's basically pulling them in. But the thing is, if you shoot right at the moon, you're going to blow right past it. It's just going to move your orbit just a little bit. They're purposely putting this thing into a position where they're basically flying in formation with the moon at a certain point, and then the moon will just pull them in. And then, here's the crazy part. You can use lunar precession to circularize your orbit around the moon. That's a combination of precessional perturbations, and I think that's retrograde gravitational perturbations. It's called retrobraking. I think it's a combination of the two. Could be wrong though. Not an orbital mechanics person. I just like talking about it because it's me. It's a pretty cool animation. Send the link if you scroll down. Oh, that's cool. Zay, I like that. That's pretty neat. Well, that's pretty neat. Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool geometric shapes. All right, animate me. Yep. Yeah, see? They grav assisted the moon on the way out. See what I'm talking about? Holy frick, that's cool. What in the absolute... See what I mean about GNC people being way smarter than us? Who the frick thought of this? Yeah, hold on, man. I want to be put into an orbit that looks like my freaking first grader drew it. Yeah, Daddy, it's a fire truck. What? Yeah, it's a fire truck. Oh, that's rectilinear insertion right there. Whoa. I know that orbit. That's the orbit that Gateway, the NASA's lunar space station, is going to be in that type of orbit. See that one that bounces up and down like that? Yeah, I know, Tessa. It's crazy. All these papers are here for specifically Gateway. Neat. Note the data is October 2024. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stay with a normal insertion in KSP. Yeah, it's probably... Yeah. You could do... Guys, fellas, you could do that in KSP. You can't do the rectilinear halo orbit, though. You can't do that because that needs lunar precession, something that's not in KSP, to do it. But yeah, you can do this. You could get it... You could do everything up until the part where it starts bouncing around. And even then, you can do an eccentric polar insertion around the moon. It just, the orbit won't precess because MUN in KSP has a perfectly centered gravitational pull. Center of gravity on the moon in Kerbal is right in the center of the planet. So you have no precessional forces, and well, why did they do that? Well, because that's really freaking hard to code. Yeah, that's really freaking hard to do. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, there's a lot of math behind this. Yeah. Lunar Space Station, Cake, yeah. NASA's Gateway. It's going out there in 2024. It's going into that type of orbit, that one that's bouncing around. That rectilinear halo orbit is a eccentric polar orbit around the moon, but uses lunar gravitational precession to make sure that the normal axis of the burn is always pointed towards Earth. Okay, if I was just speaking Japanese right there for a second, I'm sure there's some people that are like, okay. Here. This graphic explains it better. This was done by NASA. So here, watch not this one. Imagine doing the math with multiple moons. Oh, it would suck. It would that sounds horrible, 7. I mean, I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure I'd actually probably enjoy all the intricacies to it, but that would take forever. This orbiter was 550. At first it was going for a normal TLI, but after NASA jumped on the project with him, they were asked to add a shadow cam to the orbit from the dark side of the moon. Oh, that's cool. So I'd love to see you dive at Principia one day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. These are called transfer manifolds. A matter of optimizing the dynamics for anybody interested. Okay, so the rectilinear halo orbit. Yeah, Vasya. Mm-hmm. Watch the Earth-Moon rotating frame. This is a camera that has the Earth and the Moon lined up straight ahead. Look at how the orbit always stays in line of sight of Earth. NASA wants to put the Lunar Space Station in this type of orbit, because if you put it in this type of orbit, you never have to worry about the station going on the far side of the moon and having a communications blackout like during the Apollo missions. So they can always monitor the station if people are on board or if people aren't on board. I read it already, Forge. Thank you. It was a good mission, Vasya. Yeah, everything went good. It was a super synchronous insertion, so I've been showing people what super sync does. And we were talking about orbits, that's why. See? Yep, that's rectilinear. See that? Crazy, right? See how the station is always in line of sight of Earth?
Discovery.
NASA wants the Lunar Space Station there, which makes sense. So, you know, in case something goes wrong, you don't want a moon in the way so you can't communicate. Hokey gifted a sub to 00 Falcon 00. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the launch. Cool talk about orbits. I love doing that stuff. 7, thank you for teaching me about barycenters. I suspected something like that was going on, but yeah, no, learn something new every day. And that brings me to another thing. I'm not an expert on this. I like talking about it, and I'm very confident that I know a lot, but if it's one thing that I learned about anything that has to do with space, any particular field, it doesn't matter what it is, you know nothing. Yeah, there's always going to be somebody out there that knows more than you, and that's fine. I don't see that as like, oh my gosh, this person knows more for me. I feel threatened. No. No. I want to learn more because I love this stuff. It's so cool. It's so freaking cool. That's right, Pi. You damn right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great. It makes me really happy. That's so cool that there's people out there doing this stuff. I try to show people how cool it is, you know? Sweating like crazy. You can do the halo orbit in KSP. It just processes out of orbit eventually without a maneuver every dozen or so orbits. It doesn't process out of orbit. It's the lack of precession that's doing that, Tessa. But I know what you're saying. I understand. How much time would the gateway be out of sight of the lunar surface station? Well, Lazarus, if we're going to the lunar south pole because you're in an eccentric orbit, about a quarter of every orbital period would be out of sight. But if the station is still at the south pole, well, if you have the south pole, you can see Earth just fine. They should be able to communicate. It should be constant line of sight if done correctly. Then it's almost like NASA's put some really good thought into this stuff, you know? You understand because you already did it in KSP. We did. We tried to do a rectilinear orbit in KSP. We got close. Kind of worked. No precession though, so. Why are we arguing with you? You made this, remember? I do. Yeah, fellas, I've tried it in KSP. This is about as close as we got. That's right, Everest. Yeah, you're damn right. Yeah, we did that in KSP. We tried it. It doesn't work. But I got it. We got it close. I tried to use... I was trying to use SOI change to get it to perturb, but that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, isn't that cool, Abby? Look at. That was a fun day. That was a good time. Is that the best maneuver to save Delta V? A rectilinear? Nah. Sometimes, like, what I've found with rocket science is, like, I don't know the answer to that question. But I can say why I don't know the answer to that question. The reason why I don't know the answer is because I'm sure there's some case where, you know, you need a more efficient orbit requires more delta V to get in around the moon. It just depends. It really depends. Like, the definition of efficiency when it comes to spaceflight really depends on what you're doing. With Apollo, for instance, the most efficient way was to just brute force it there. Why? Because if you try any other way, then you run out of air, right? That's probably need that. So that was the most efficient way to do it because you have the, 3 humans on board. Now, are we talking, if you're launching a probe out there, then there's way more efficient ways to do it. But efficiency efficiency of the mission is subject to stakeholder definition. Meaning, what are you trying to do, right? Like, in terms of just set, like, the least amount of delta V to get to a certain orbit, like, if you're just trying to get something out to the moon, what that ballistic lunar trajectory is pretty, that's pretty damn efficient. That's probably, you don't need to circularize around the moon doing that. You just have a translunar injection burn, and that's it. It's actually pretty freaking cool. How exactly did you figure out orbital insertion of that? Screwed around until you got something, or tried to do the math? I watched that video that I just showed you. And I tried to mimic the insertion over the North Pole like what Orion was doing. I didn't do the math. I could do the math, I guess, if we really wanted to. Have you read this? Yep. Yeah, Liam. A micrometeorite tapped one of the mirrors on James Webb, but it's fine. James Webb was like, get this off of me. Yep. Cool. Good stuff, dudes. Good stuff. Yeah, Ren, exactly. A lot of people call Gateway a toll booth. And it's funny because they say, oh, a toll booth is bad for spaceflight. And, well, I don't argue that. That's, there's probably... I prefer the Apollo architecture, to be honest, because that one actually put someone on the moon. That actually did what we wanted it to do. But I digress. a lot of people say Gateway is a toll booth, but you got to think about what a toll booth does. Why does a toll booth exist? You pay the toll so the road can get maintained, so the road stays up so you can drive to a destination. So it makes sense in that regard. But in terms of like the easiest way to get down to the lunar surface, yeah, no, that's bad. But then again, that's not the entire point. That's not the entire stakeholder goal. Why Gateway is there. Gateway is there to give us a boat anchor around the moon that it's a destination that we can go to. Like the ISS. Somebody said, I think Rocket Guy said it in chat. 'Tis but a scratch. Should you panic? No. That's what it is, Macafood. Yeah, space toll. Now, am I annoyed that we have to use a freaking toll booth to go back to the moon? Yeah, that's kind of dumb. Why can't we? Can you just like do that whole go back to the moon thing, please? We did it 50 years ago. I know it's difficult. Tell me you can't do something they did 50 years ago? Come on now. But thing is that we're so far out of the gates that it's probably just as difficult as it was 50 years ago because we took all the people that knew how to do it and just let them age 50 years. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. That's probably not a good idea in hindsight. Yeah, but I can think of several times where people at NASA have said, yeah, that probably wasn't a good idea in hindsight, and, that's just part and parcel, I guess. Purple Pie, 1513 sub. Thanks, man. If you look at the Artemis architecture from a zoomed-out view, there's a lot of stuff where the system falls super short, but it's definitely a pretty optimized architecture for what it is. Yeah, Rocket Guy, I'm with you on that one. What I would change, and don't get me wrong, this is just EJ being an armchair rocket scientist again. What I would change with the architecture is the service module for Orion. The service module for Orion. I'd give Orion LLO capability, low lunar orbit access capability, and eliminate the need for a transfer stage, and just use Orion to transfer from Gateway with a lunar module down to the moon. How are you going to do that? Well, have the lunar module have docking ports on both sides, so Orion can dock the LM to the Gateway, right? Orion could undock and then dock somewhere else on the Gateway, and then the lunar module could either pop off or you could grab Orion and you could go down to the moon. I think that would be a much safer way to do things personally, but my risk aversion is different than NASA's. That would enable you to have a two-stage lander option for SLS, and obviously SLS would need a bigger upper stage, but that's what I would do to fix it. Yeah, Gabe. Yeah, the Mass Pike toll booths were only there to pay for the road. I still think about that, man. But, Gabe, I will say this. The toll booths were only supposed to be there to subsidize the cost of the road. I understand that. I get that. They should have taken them out when the road was done. But I will say this. I-90 is smooth as glass. The Mass Pike is a very, very well-maintained road. I'll say it. Like, the rest of our roads suck. Not because they're bad roads, just because I think I drew city maps in, like, 5th grade that were more coherent. But, yeah. To be fair, LLO actually sucks as an orbit, so it's entirely understandable why NASA wants to keep Orion out of it. Oh yeah, for sure, Lavi. I mean, or you could do a transfer. Like, see, the option that I enabled, that I just told you about, you could just have a transfer stage in it. So you send one SLS up, right, with a two-stage lunar lander, and then you send an Orion with a transfer module. You have the Orion plop the transfer module onto the lander, Orion docks to the Gateway, and then you have a three-stage variant. I think. And if you made the transfer stage reusable, but also had Orion's service module able to get down to LLO, then you're double redundant there, and you have more flexibility and capability with the same toll booth. I'm not like sending Orion down to LLO isn't necessarily what you could do, but it's something that we should. That I think NASA should have that capability. I think not having that capability is dangerous if you really want to know. The toll is like a 6%. Delta V increase for crew. A 1% for fast cargo actually nets some Delta V for ballistic trajectory cargo. It's not something crazy. Yeah, Novus. Yeah, no. For Delta V standpoint, it's not that big of a deal. That makes sense, especially if you can co-manifest the stage in Block 1B. I think that's how they should do it, and I think NASA should have their own in-house lander on top of a commercial provider. I hope that's what they end up doing with SLD, with Sustainable Lunar, because that, like, once again, guys, I am a SpaceX fanboy, but I'm also a NASA fanboy. I'm a fanboy of everybody, anyone that throws their hat into the ring here. I want everyone firing on all cylinders, because that's the best way. That's the best way we're gonna go further in space, when everyone fires on all cylinders. We didn't go to the moon because the Soviet Union didn't have a space program, right? When everyone's firing on all cylinders, stuff gets done. More rockets, the better. More competition, more flight into space. Doesn't matter if it's government to government, private to private, private to government, doesn't matter. None of that matters. More rockets, the better. So, I want NASA to have their in-house lander. I want them to make another LEM, and I want Starship up there with it. And you know what? I want Starship eating the lunch of NASA's lander. Like, I want NASA's lander to land, and then Starship to land right next to it and be like, yo, bro. Yeah, that's nice ride, I guess. I want that. I want all of that. Because people are overlooking the point. Everybody's like, oh, Starship's so much better, right? No. You're missing the point. The point is that there's 2 lunar landers on the moon. If that's not more sustainable, I don't know what is. You can't tell me you like the Astros, though. No. A bunch of cheaters, man. Shotch, hey Jay, I read that Twitter thread you retweeted about shuttle tiles. It's good stuff. Yeah, I learned a lot from that, Shotch, but a lot of it I did already know. I knew about the humidity in the tiles, but what I didn't know is that they had to literally make a vacuum cleaner to suck the moisture out of the tiles after every shuttle mission. Counter argument: orange rocket bad. Yeah, right. Concept art question about orbital assembly company. How do they expect to dock and launch these mini shuttles at the edge of the ring? This doesn't seem like it's very well thought out. Differential eccentricity will solve that problem, Predominant. If you watch Starliner dock to the ISS, Starliner actually rotates around the ISS doing... They use differential eccentricity to get to the point to do a co-elliptic burn correctly. Basically, Starliner's orbit is slightly egg-shaped and the ISS is circular, so if you have a big rim-like station like that, you can use differential eccentricity to go fly up on the top side of the ring and dock, just like what we do with the space station. It's possible. Oh yeah, you could do that. That actually would be super efficient. Now, if you think about the orientation of the space station, dude, think the ring is like this and the surface is right here, and think about the station rotating like a wheel would on the ground, but up in orbit. If you do that, you can use differential eccentricity to dock anywhere on that station for literally no extra delta V. Could I get a link for the TPS thread? It's it's on my Twitter. It's on my Twitter from like last week. Shots. You got to speak with some engineers from Jacobs before. They tried a whole bunch of stuff. If only steam water wasn't 1600 to 1, or there's some real fast ways that they talked about. Yeah, man. The tiles, dude. Tough Rock. You know what pisses me off about that shot? Tough Rock fixes that goddamn problem. And they had Tough Rock in the 90s. The tough and unifibrous reinforced oxidation-resistant, corrosion-resistant tiles, the Mark II shuttle tiles. They had it in the late 90s, early 2000s for the X-37 project. They invented a better tile, and then they just never used it. Just... What are you doing? Stop it! Stop that! You stop this now! I watched Season 1 of For All Mankind. I like it. Season 2 was just boring. Hopefully Season 3 is better. What's your opinion on Season 2? That's my opinion. That's my opinion on Season 2. Alright. They stopped it, alright. Yeah. You're telling me, man. You're telling me. Alright, guys. What's that, T-Man? Last pulls? Could I get a link to the TPS thread? It's on Twitter. I linked it on Twitter about a week ago, Alex. Do you want me to stop what I'm doing and go look for it? I got you. Here, I'll do that just for you, BB. got you. I got you. It's from a guy that it's from Phil Metzger. He's a professor at UCF, University of Central Florida, which is like not that far from the Space Coast. The guy worked on the shuttle program, which is cool. There's a road closure tomorrow for Booster 7 transport. Oh, you guys want to go see what's going on in Boker? Boker. Actually, yeah, let's do it. Has NSF posted the new video today? Yes, they have. Let's go check it out. Can you dig it? Yes, I can. This video is coming from our buddies over at NASA Spaceflight. This is daily update videos about what SpaceX is doing at their other launch site in Texas with Starship. It looks like we're getting ready for a launch here soon, but let's look at the footage last. Okay, Boker, Bokum. Inflatable heat shield update. NASA to inflate heat shield on Earth before spaceflight demo. Oh boy, oh that's cool. This is the yeah, that's lofted. Yeah, no, that's really cool. All right, let's see what we got, dudes. This is coming from Mary Nick and DAS's NSF Robots.
Hello, Robot. Would you like to join me on the beach? Dr. Zoidberg, homeowner.
Tough Rock has similar mechanical issues, if I recall correctly, but thermally it's way more robust. Isn't it? It doesn't because it's carbon? It's a carbon-based tile. Shotch, isn't it because it's a carbon-based tile? I mean, I don't know how well you'd be with gluing them because SpaceX uses a mechanical fastener, but some of those tiles are glued. Those are Tough Rock over there on the left. Doesn't it not absorb the water? I mean, they're using mechanical adhesion on stainless steel, though. I understand that is not the same as mechanical adhesion or gluing tiles to an aluminum space frame, right? But yeah, Tough Rock has similar mechanical issues. Yeah. How did they get it to work on the X-37, man? They got it to work on the X-37. It's just the X-37 never has problems with it. Well, I don't know that for sure, to be honest with you. It might.
The robots are taking over. Oh, it's an invasion.
But anyway, Shotch, it's good to see you, dude. Look at how small Starship looked in that previous shot. Yeah, it's because it's far away. The hydrophilicness of the tiles is in large part due to surface area. Okay, learning time for EJ. The hydrophilicness of the tiles is in large part due to surface area. You just need to make the material phobic enough to counter that. Interesting.
Young lady, bring me a sandwich from the dumpster and leave the maggots on it.
Yeah, Enco, there you go. That'll do them in. That's interesting, Shotch. Like carbon foams and stuff can get to being 90% plus air by volume. There's a lot of area in them things. Yeah. It's from Futurama, Plutonium. So Shotch, actually, dude, you know what I was reading about? I was reading about a NASA press release the other day. Before we get into Starship, you guys probably want to hear this. Shotch, I was reading about a press release of somebody at NASA figured out how to 3D print RCC. And it brought production time down like 100-fold, or manufacturing time down like 100-fold. RCC tiles, man. It's possible. Yeah, NASA figured out a way to 3D print that stuff. Yeah, RCC tiles would pretty much, yeah, that's game over. If I really hope we could get that done. We got another bit of IG vomit on the second launch tower tomorrow. Wait, what? Wouldn't need the tiles then. Could 3D print conformal RCC surface. Bingo. What is RCC you're talking about? Explain RCC. Reinforced carbon-carbon. Reinforced carbon-carbon is something that came from weapons, obviously. It always is. It's an idea that came from basically the tip of a nuclear warhead. Because the tip of a nuclear warhead gets extremely hot. The reason why is because how the plasma accumulates around a pointy cone when it's coming in. A nuclear warhead gets extremely hot at the center because the wake of the plasma that's coming off of it is super freaking close to the point. So the point gets extremely freaking hot. This is part of the reason why on re-entry vehicles, you don't have a pointy nose. There's not a pointy nose for that reason. In fact, the space shuttle's nose cone is shaped in such a way to push the plasma away from the shuttle. Can you guess which side, top or bottom, has that plasma wake further away from the shuttle? Take a guess. Which side of the shuttle gets hotter during re-entry? That's what I'm asking. Bottom, because of the darker tiles, right? That's how the shuttle works. The shuttle's nose cone is designed to push the plasma up over the top, way and nowhere near the top of the space shuttle. That's why it doesn't have a thermal protection system up top. It's coincidentally the same reason why Starship doesn't need a thermal protection system on it, because, well, actually it has a pointy nose. The nose is going to get really hot on Starship, which is funny to me, but whatever. The reinforced carbon-carbon, guys, is on the nose of Discovery. See that gray? This gray stuff right here. That's reinforced carbon-carbon. Reinforced carbon-carbon can straight up resist the heat up to like 5,000 Fahrenheit or something. It's an absurd thing. Now, I know what you're going to ask. If that can just straight up withstand the heat, why the frick didn't they put that on the entire shuttle? RCC is extremely hard to manufacture, and that's why NASA figuring out how to 3D print it is such a big deal. How heavy does it make it? RCC is actually pretty light. It's not as light as the tiles. It's not as light as the tiles for sure, but it is pretty light. But in the future, fellas, you could theoretically make a space shuttle with RCC tiles on it. Those tiles, you don't have to worry about absorbing water. You don't have to worry about, I mean, they're still susceptible to debris strikes because the RCC cracked on the wing on Columbia because it got hit by a piece of foam from the tank. But that would eliminate the need to evac water out of these tiles, and it would be much more reusable. That's what I'm trying to get at. RCC is brittle, kind of like charcoal almost, or
Discovery, go at throttle up.
You know, like that really dry cardboard? You know how, like, you hit cardboard sometimes? Like, if you're trying to, like, rip cardboard in half and it just doesn't want to tear? But then there's other types of cardboard that you can just tear straight through, like the dry cardboard? That's how brittle RCC is. No, not structural. Usually thermal protection systems, hypersonic, are not structural because, yeah, you don't want to heat up a structural element of your re-entry vehicle, amongst other things. But anyway, pyrolyzing stuff that big is very hard. Printing it and making something that can still go through the pyrolysis is difficult. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, yeah, but even if, dude, if we could 3D print that stuff. Now, Shach, personally, I'm a fan of the X-33. The X-33 thermal protection system is god tier, but it's also god tier expensive too. Have you ever seen this before? Look at this thing. We have titanium tiles with an aluminum heatsink on the back. And inside of the aluminum heatsink is cilia fibers. Yeah. Titanium, metallic tiles. Yeah. Now, that's pretty awesome. Just wondering, how did they fix the foam falling off of the external tank? Basically, don't fill and drain the tank as much. Yeah, the X-33 tiles were going to be god tier. Now, you guys want to talk about You guys want to talk about a system that literally would require zero upkeep? You'd need as much maintenance as a plane fuselage? Well, there you go. They figured out a way to do it in the 2000s. Lockheed. Actually, Tory Bruno worked on that for what it's worth. Yeah, titanium face tile with an aluminum heatsink behind it that has cilia fibers inlaid into it. Now, don't get me wrong. That would have been the god tier end all be all of reusable heat shields. But also at the same time, that would have been ridiculously expensive. Like more expensive than the space shuttle, like way more expensive. Had some fun stuff also with high temp metallic ceramics that are just glass coated with big blankets underneath them. Yep, the cilia. Just like what SpaceX is doing. I mean, SpaceX has cilia behind the Tough Rock tiles, if I'm looking at that right. But yeah, it's cool stuff. There's all these different solutions. There's got to be something out there that, you know, that doesn't require a bunch of tiles, right? Like, there's got to be something. I don't know, Hellfish. Isn't titanium one of the heaviest materials right now? Titanium is dense. It's not heavy. Weight has nothing to do with it. It's all about mass, and mass has a lot to do with density there. There isn't? I disagree. What is cilia? Cilia could be a bunch of different things. Guys, it's just... For all intents and purposes, I mean, Shach, how would you describe cilia? It's a fire blanket, basically. Would you try arching your shoulders? He's trying. See that? See that right there? So the tiles are basically a heat sink, guys. They work like a heat sink on a computer. The heat sink in this particular case, instead of absorbing heat from a processor, I'm pointing at my computer that you can't see. It's absorbing the heat that's generated from the plasma that accumulates from air compression and resulting ionization of molecules. All right, so basically something comes back in so fast, it hits the atmosphere so fast that it rips the air apart. And when you rip the air molecules apart, when you ionize the molecule, it just basically the molecule just releases an insane amount of energy in the form of plasma, and that plasma is really hot. And the thing about it is that plasma accumulates. It's very strange. Think about it like if you take a cold beverage, a cold snack, you take it out of the fridge on a hot day and it condenses. The condensation just kind of accumulates on the can. It doesn't like fall off or anything. It just kind of stays there. Same idea. Plasma accumulates like that, but only accumulates in certain areas. Yeah, it's very weird. It's weird stuff, and I don't fully understand it, to be honest with you. But you have to absorb the heat that comes off, that's generated from that plasma. You have to find a way to absorb it, or you have to find a way to just straight up push it away. The tiles are a heat sink. They can absorb the heat, and that's what makes the tiles good. They can absorb insane amounts of heat before they hit, what is it called? Critical mass? That's what that's called, when something can, can't absorb any more heat. When something gets critical mass, it usually melts. Yeah, something, but yeah, I think I said that right. Could be wrong, fully admitting. Very liquid-like properties. Yeah, but it's not liquid. It's like fiery liquid. Liquid, sticky fire. Yeah. Silica is silicon oxide, just like a bunch of different makes and types of glass that have different additives that you can get different properties. Most high-temp silica blankets are near pure silica. Yeah, there you go. So plasma is like napalm then. Got it. It's way hotter than napalm, Draco. Like, mix thermite with napalm. Yeah, don't do that. But think that. Yeah, it's really freaking hot. We're talking, what is it? Like 3,500 Fahrenheit? What is that? Like 1700 C? It's really freaking hot. So asbestos without the cancer, yeah. So the same stuff we make processors out of. Yeah, kind of. The foam comes off from something called cryopumping. It takes a couple of conditions for that to happen. You need a void of gas inside of the foam. Those gases have to condense from cold temperatures, then later heat up and expand explosively if there's an escape path. You've got to do a lot of development with each foam application to understand what's happening inside the foam so there's no voids. Yeah, Mycon, you like how I like to explain it. It's not the best way to explain it, but how I like to explain it is that something hits the atmosphere so fast it rips air molecules apart. Yeah, just rips them apart. Yeah, they just divide by 0 and go, yeah, okay, all right. You know? Yeah, no, never mind. I don't need to do this. Yeah, Hellfish. Plasma is really cool. Actually, I'll pause this again for real quick second. I want to say something. Hellfish, you know what's crazy? There are people, I don't know if it's NASA, someone out there is working on a drive that shoots out plasma. There's a drive mechanism that can think like a fusion reactor, like a tokamak. Only the magnetic field for this fusion reactor is shaped like a rocket engine. I forget who's working on it. I think it's NASA, but it could be wrong. So, like I said, think a fusion reactor, which kind of looks like a donut, and take that donut shape and make it into a rocket shape. And with that, you can shoot plasma out the back. Instead, plasma can be your reaction gas from the fusion, or reaction mass from the fusion. And theoretically, I think it's called Vasimir. I think that's what that's called. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. We're getting into stuff that's really advanced. It's really advanced for your boy here. The idea is that you can make a rocket engine that has ridiculous specific impulse. Like, literally, that's the Expanse, man. That's what Expanse is. Expanse is a plasma drive. If you want to read NTRS, cryopumping and cryogenic installations for a reusable launch vehicle, I will actually read that tonight, Novus. Yeah, it's very interesting, Mycon. I don't think it's Vasimir, Nighthound. I think what I'm talking about is something different. They decide to not be molecule. They're moleculant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Repost. Update for the capstone launch. Okay. Let's see. There's a lot of stuff in here. Okay, what's this update? Launch update. Capstone is no longer targeting June 13th for its mission to the moon. A revised schedule will be provided as soon as possible. Alright. A magnetoplasma dynamic engine? I think that's what it's called, Rocket Guy? I don't know. It's, like I said, it's just a fusion reactor, but instead of containing the explosion and containing the fusion reaction and using the heat to generate power, they literally just have the magnetic field shaped like a rocket engine. So it's a convergent divergent design, but with plasma. It's using plasma and fusion. Plasma is your reaction mass, which is, I think that's what that's called. But dude, if we could figure that one out, oh man. If we can figure that one out, dude, we got Star Wars. That's Star Wars. That's Star Wars propulsion. Easily Star Wars propulsion. Yeah, that is very, yeah. If we figure that out, dude, SSDOs, whatever, going to the moon, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we could make real Millennium Falcons. That's not a big deal. Yeah, just no hyperdrive, exactly. But we don't need hyperdrives, not yet. But then again, Capybara, if you can generate enough energy, you can do anything you want. Seriously. Generate enough energy, you can do whatever. If you generate enough energy, you could take goat piss and turn it into gasoline if you really want to. We had enough to turn goat piss into gasoline, boy. When do we go to plaid? Well, you need secret hyperjets to do that, Vega. Most insulators are insulators because the path length through the material that heat can be conducted is long. Be that at the macro, micro, or atomic scales. The atomic scale is largely defined by your material choice and fairly limited. Macro is mostly limited to thickness, which just leaves micro, which mostly means foams or fibrous materials. Yeah, okay. Okay, Shach, I have a stupid question. I have a stupid question. Okay, so say, just cast the absurdity of this idea just kind of out of your head for a second. So the Kitty Hawk is down at Brownsville getting scrapped right now. The Kitty Hawk is a gigantic aircraft carrier. Say we could do what we could do at KSP and we put it up on orbit. And that carrier re-enters. Straight up, is the carrier hull thick enough to be able, do you think that hardened marine steel would be thick enough to just outright resist plasma? It's something that I've thought about. Basically, the point that I'm trying to get at is, can you just make at what point can we just use a regular building material? Could we just make a steel thermal protection system? I mean, I fully understand that would be insanely high mass and it would screw your delta V completely. I get it, but could we? Is that do you guys think that's possible? Well, it would get real melty. It would effectively be ablative. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's a lot of mass to come back down. At what point could you just make a thermal protection system out of steel? Could we just do that? Or could we make it out of Inco or something and just make something that straight up resists it? My assumption, and it is an assumption, and I get it, that's wrong. My assumption for the longest time was that the reason why we don't make stuff, we don't use a regular building material like steel or iron or something to make a thermal protection system because it screws your delta V completely, right? Tungsten heat shield. Yeah, Ian, that's what I'm asking. Is there something where, say we had that magnetoplasma dynamic drive. Could you just make a heat shield out of tungsten and call it a day? Just make the outside of the spacecraft out of tungsten and you'll get Star Wars. You'll go right through, right? Scott once did a video about some steel bowling balls that were put near a nuclear blast. The closer they were, the more the steel ablated away. Carrier RD reminds me of that. Yeah, interesting. Melting temperature of steel is 1600. Yeah, Nikita, that's right. It's about 1600, but if you have a big enough heat shield, that's not going to matter. Because there's maybe one point in certain areas will get above 1600 just because the steel can't absorb the heat that much, but well, yeah, that's a good point, Dragon. We use plasma cutters to cut steel. They don't have high enough melting points, and you can't conduct that heat through the surface of the material fast enough to keep that temperature down. You'd actually want a material with a lower melting point and higher thermal conductivity and some system to absorb the heat behind it. Just how film or regenerative cooling works. Yep. Yeah, okay, cool. That makes sense. So, a golden heat shield? Golden heat shield when? big expandable or extrudable golden heat shield. You make it extrudable, it freaking pops out like an inflatable heat shield. I personally cuts 2-inch thick steel with a plasma cutter. This steel doesn't slow it down much, yeah. Silver would be really good, actually. Would just cause issues with tarnishing. Interesting. What about copper? Does copper have a... I know copper has good thermal conductivity. So does aluminum, right? There are rocket engines entirely made out of copper. Yes, rocket engines. That also happen to be combustion chamber, throat, and nozzle film cooled. That are full flow stage combustion cycle, am I right? Am I right? Yeah. Copper. Yep. I'd go for a lead balloon. It would work better. Anyway, let's get back to the Starship footage and see what we got. Interesting conversation. Depends on your heating rates for re-entry. The higher OML skin temp of the heat shield will generally lead to a higher substrate temperature, although that depends on the thermal conductivity of the material that you're using. Ablative materials are useful because the ablation limits on the OML temp of the heat shield, along with having low thermal conductivity for the structure carrying your primary loads. Yeah, okay. What the hell? Oh, is that the robot that Michael Reeves made that pisses in a cup? Oh, no, that's a different one. Damn. I know it's Boston Dynamics. I was making a joke. The Piss Bot! Still one of the funniest YouTube videos I've watched. Actually, I don't know, Ark. Is that or the Goldfish one better? The Goldfish one is pretty damn good. The Piss Bot. I'm sorry, what? Nothing. Wait, what did it do? Boston Dynamics VFT1. Long story short, it's complicated. It always is, Novus. Yeah. We don't have any steel heat shields yet. No one's thought of doing that for a very good reason, and that's why I asked. Like, is there some point where you could just be like, frick you, and just brute force through the atmosphere with like regular building materials? The answer to that question is no. Yeah, no. But seeing an aircraft carrier doing a Dama maneuver would be pretty freaking sweet, actually. That would be really cool. The Goldfish one is that's my favorite, yeah. Depends on how much steel you're willing to use to lose. Why legs versus tracks in this instance? Can you, MotoKid, can you walk where a tank can't go? Also, I just kind of halfway believe that Boston Dynamics is secretly the Combine from Half-Life 2. Have you seen the Striders? That looks exactly like it. There's that can't be an accident. Look at the. See? Welcome to City 17. It's safer here. It's not a Strider, it's a Hunter. Yeah, that's right. Good. Yeah, Spraz, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Well, no, I guess their stick MotoKit is that the legs can go where a tracked vehicle couldn't. I mean, they're not wrong, I guess. Booster 7 in Mega Bay. If only the US had a spare unused carrier right near a spaceport. I know. That'd be really nice. Why? Why are we doing this? It's a whole aircraft carrier. What do you mean? Can we not afford it? Oh, I can't afford it. We gotta scrap this carrier. Yeah, okay. Sure. Right. Could they use graphite as a heat shield? I suppose, Matt. I'm not sure. I'm learning about this stuff. I don't know this stuff too well, dude. I'd have to go read, which is why anybody that's linking stuff about heat shields, I'm just keeping over there to read later. That's true. I suppose if they need to navigate us through a starship wreck, it would be better. And they have used that for that, too. You're right. You're not wrong. The thing I heard is that it's full of asbestos. That's the reason. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, most of the old carriers are. But as long as you don't disturb the asbestos, you're fine. I feel like you may need to send a battleship through Kerbin's atmosphere now just to see how it would perform aerodynamically. What? No. Praise to the mystery box. I think that's a Starlink payload changeout room. I just don't know how they're going to load Starlink into Starship with that thing. My guess, shots, is that they're going to have some type of stand to load it up. KSP battleship build stream when? Oh god. Oh god. The reentry physics in KSP, guys, are super forgiving. They're not as forgiving as real life. In real life, anything like what we're talking about, in real life, anything that doesn't have a heat shield ain't coming back. We do, MC. Yep. Yep, yep. Interesting. Look, they got stringers inside of stringers here on this section. This usually indicates that there's going to be a lot of compression load in that area. If I'm looking at that right. Those are some bolts. That's big text right there. See, you've got big text on it. No, nothing's set, Cake, but I'm thinking July. That's my guess right now. Oh yeah, Dragon. Of course it is, T-Man. Yeah, of course. There's Star Factory. They're building a new indoor facility to manufacture starships instead of the Elon tents. Huh. Pick up where Apollo left off. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see how they have the stringers on the stringers right there? That's a test section, though. That's very interesting. Okay, here's the cryo. This is the cryo test under load here. This happened yesterday. Hey, Naceros. Hey, you back? Right on. We're just watching the update video from our buddies over at NASA Spaceflight. I don't know, Laserman. I'm not sure. I agree, Niceros. They're really, really awesome. Rockets are so freaking cool. I mean, also, it is really cold, but they're also really cool. Whoa! Okay. Common. Oh, okay, Phil. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Hellfish, that's what I was saying. I was saying copper would... I mean, copper thermal protection system when? Let's make some copper tiles. Let's see what that does. Does that mean there's a new pope? No. It means that there's a new starship. Or something like that. I'm the freaking the Pope. Is the Pope Catholic? It's as easy as falling off the Pope into a big bowl of pudding where there's proof. Rear part of the booster quick disconnect hood moved to the Launch side. Okay. Okay, cool. That's the update from Boca Chica here. Let me see if I actually have anything else here. There's the lofted stuff. Looks like we got some B-roll footage from NASA of Europa Clipper. And NASA doesn't know how to mix audio, as per usual. Okay. Oh, yeah. We also have the plans for Starbase, the Starbase at KSC. Figured out where they're going to move the starships. They updated the plans for Roberts Roads, dudes. Actually, you know what? While we're on the subject of Starship, I want to show you this. Check this out. So, we got new plans for Roberts, which, yeah, here, let me show you. Which explains how they're going to move starships around. This is one of my little kind of infrastructure tangent thingamajiggers here. You know, you figure out how they're going to get Starship to the pad from this, because this at Roberts Road here, that's not near the launch pad where Starship is going to launch from. Now, in case you're wondering what we're looking at here, these are plans for SpaceX's Starship factory. Now, it's public record. You can go get them. You can go find them if you want. But these updated plans changed around a couple of things. What they changed around was the parking lot. Before, with this design, the parking lot was actually over here. They moved it to the other side and made it a lot bigger. Because, take a look. They moved the high bay. Well, they didn't move the high bay. The high bay is being built. But they have a gigantic concrete area out here, and then another concrete foundation for another high bay if they needed it, right here, and a gigantic concrete slab with a huge radiused road here to move starships out of this facility down the road with the heavy grade on it. Yeah, there you go. They made the entrance for starships. Is the old one? Yeah, see? There's the old entrance that had non-heavy duty roads. Thank you, Creeper. And this one, let's see if we can. Oh, come here. Yeah, see? This road was a little dinky road right there, and then they made it that's where they're gonna roll the starships out. which makes sense now. We have the pathway from Starship to the pad. Now the geology stuff and the road grading and stuff is not, people aren't too big of a fan of that stuff, so I won't go into it too much, but basically we were trying to look at the plans to figure out how Starship is going to be made and how they're going to move it to the pad. Well, we have a gigantic assembly line road right there. So this is kind of like a run-of-the-mill intersection for cars. This one is designed for light duty. It's a 30 foot, which is what, a 3-lane road, I think. This one right here is an 80 foot wide.
Go and throttle up.
That's an 80 foot wide concrete road. So that's that's designed for heavy duty. That's designed for a lot of traffic. What do you mean starships? Starships are this. This is the Florida facility where they're gonna make these things in Florida too. Elon's setting up another factory over there. Starships and boosters. Now, they have to move them to the pad, right? Even in Texas, they have to move them a couple miles down the road to the pad. In Florida, we were trying to figure out how they were going to get them to 39A. Well, that road right there, that 80 foot wide concrete heavy graded road is a pretty good indicator. Here, let me show you. So we're going to zoom in on Roberts Road right here. Keep in mind, this picture is very old, so let's go over here. So check it out. Little thing on road infrastructure. All right, if you start looking around, it's really easy to spot what's heavy infrastructure that's designed for heavier things on the road and what isn't. I'll give you a good example. Let's go right here. What can you tell me about this road? Well, if you're looking at Kennedy Parkway here, what is this thing? What's that? That's obviously designed for something gigantic and something absurdly heavy, because it's a big concrete road, just like the one that we see from Starship. It's a big road. Now, is that one 80 wide? I don't know. Let's check. No, it's 50. The one down at the other end is that. It's that big. This is a 50 foot wide road that's concrete, obviously designed for heavy traffic. Well, let's see where it goes. I know where it goes for the most part. It goes up here, and you can tell that this is a heavy road, heavy industrial road with a heavy grade, because it has retention ponds next to it. Meaning that they needed to put this road up on a mound to make sure that whatever travels on this thing doesn't sink into the swamp. Now, I'll give you 3 hints once we see where this goes, what this road was used for. That road was used to bring the space shuttle back from its missions back to the orbiter processing facilities when its missions were done. That's why there's such a big heavy road right there. Another one that's a little bit easier to spot, well, there's something different about this road, i.e. it's not a road, it's made out of rocks. That's the crawler way, designed to move something extremely freaking heavy in the form of, well, SLS, Saturn V, shuttle, etc., etc. Right? So it's really easy to spot where heavy infrastructure winds up, because the roads are often made out of concrete. Or they have a weird shape to them, or they have like an extra lane or something, where it doesn't seem like a lane is seemingly needed. Another spot would be over here on the ITL Causeway. Look at this intersection. That's a very strange looking intersection. Why is this all paved? Why do these have crazy radiuses? Well, Atlas cores come in here. They move Atlas 5s through here. That's why like, look, if you look at the road, why is it like that? Why is there this whole section of pavement that they're seemingly not using? Well, when you're towing a rocket booster over to the Atlas Space Operations Center over here, well, a rocket's pretty long, and if you're towing one on a trailer, you're going to need a very big turning radius, right? Now follow this road from the ASOC. Take a look. Another weirdly radius road. There's one here. That road is also, see, it also has that side buffer thingamajigger. Now, if we follow this road, up, there it is again. There it is again. See what I'm talking about? And then it's basically a straight blast all the way to Slick 41 where they tow the Atlas cores too. See? They go up here and then they back it in and then they build Atlas 5s in here. See what I'm talking about? There's always infrastructure that you can look for to know where they're going to move stuff around. It's really easy to spot. I can give another example, but I think I've got the point conveyed across pretty successfully. So, these updated plans give us the last leg of what they're going to do to move this around. Now, let's take a look here. Let's take a look. Look at this road. Oh. Huh. Another one of those weird clearance areas right here. Okay. Now, another thing is this road is 3 lanes wide. Why? Why does it need to be 3 lanes wide? Well, it's because it's a heavy road. It's designed for heavy traffic. Oh, look. What is that, 45? That's a weird size for a road, don't you think? Why doesn't it just look like this right here? Just a regular 2-lane road. Why do you need a 3-lane road right there? Well, you need a 3-lane road combined with these big radiuses because when you're moving Falcon 9s into their storage hangars, when you're not using them or refurbishing them, it turns out you need something that's heavy. You need a heavy-duty road. Driving a Falcon 9 or moving a stage or a space shuttle on a regular road, a space shuttle would crack the pavement, or a Falcon 9 would crack the pavement. It's too heavy. You need a heavy-duty road. And look at the other thing. This 3-lane road leads right to a huge radius with a concrete slab for putting rockets inside of their storage hangars right there. Now, you go over here, you take a look. Well, this is where they're building this factory, right? Now, let's go back and look at the plans. Let's look and see. Right here. If this thing doesn't lag up a storm. Check it out. Here's the Starship factory. And there is a big 80-foot wide heavy-duty road with a huge turning radius right there compared to a regular road next to it by the brim of my cap. I could try to zoom you guys in if the thing wants to. See what I'm talking about? That's a regular road. This is for cars. That's for starships. See the difference? Much bigger. That gives us a path, basically. That's right here. And then you have this heavy-duty road, and then we know that Kennedy Parkway is designed for heavy industrial traffic because, once again, you don't need a weird 3-lane road up here. And if you go all the way up here, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, right here. Look, concrete with a wide radius. Starships and Falcon 9s and all kinds of components are definitely moved down this industrial road, which basically leads down the crawlerway. And if you look at even the crawlerway road, it has that weird spacing on it, right? It goes all the way to 39A. That's how I think they're going to get Starship to its launch pad. Starship's launch pad at Kennedy Space Center is to the right over here at 39A. See what I'm talking about? Now I have a path. Now we have a known path that leads directly to the pad. Good afternoon. Anything interesting happened today? No, there was NILESAT. NILESAT was cool. I'm sure you were there, though. I'm ignorant. How's a heavy-duty road special? Concrete versus asphalt? Roads have foundations, Niceros. A foundation for a road is called a subgrade. The thicker that subgrade and whatever it's made out of can determine more heavy-duty traffic, but usually it's a concrete road. Concrete is way stronger than asphalt. Asphalt moves around, and it cracks. I mean, concrete cracks too, but not as much. That's what a heavy-duty road does. So if you look at places where there's factories, you're going to see a lot more concrete roads. They got to get past the HIF, though. Mutter, that's still a question that I really don't have answered. Now, this road has a weird radius to it. I think they're gonna take this road because look, that road has the weird widths to it. You see that? And I think they're gonna bring it in over here. They added another entrance to 39A, a temporary kind of entrance over here. I think that's how they're going to bring it in. But, there's another weird thing that I keep hearing this. And this is me straight up doing as sources say, so take it for what it's worth. I keep hearing that SpaceX has interest in one of the crawler transporters, in CT-1. I have no idea why, and I couldn't tell you what they would need it for or anything like that, but I keep hearing whispers of that. I don't know where it's coming from. It's probably misinformation, to be honest with you, but I do keep hearing that, which is strange. I also saw the Starship Florida OLM today. Oh, into Hangar M? That's nice. I wonder if the space community Vulcan has figured out where the QD and where the QD is. Shh. Yeah, I know. So it doesn't squish. Bingo. And in Florida, you got to be very careful because the ground is really squishy. So it's really easy to spot in Florida, Naceros. Eric's sources say Johnson. Now you spelled burger wrong, Panta. But yeah, I keep hearing that SpaceX has interest in the VAB and the crawlers. Now, that's like through like a source that's probably like 4 or 5 times removed. And the only reason I'm telling you guys this is because, man, that would be cool. It'd be cool to see a Starship rolling out of the VAB on a crawler transporter. Oh, I can dream. I don't think that SpaceX will, for what it's worth, but I can hope. Is Highway 4 a heavy-duty road then? No. No, not at all. Go look at the NSF footage of Highway 4. Like, you just see it in passing in the footage at Boca Chica. It's literally destroyed. They have to constantly repair it, which is kind of funny. Like here, let me zoom in, I'll show you. That really shows how much that road is getting wrecked. Look at it. They've had to repave it multiple times because it gets absolutely thrashed on. That's what the road looked like before. And look, they've had to repair it. They're upgrading it over time. But see, they've even expanded Highway 4. Look at it. That's a weird width for a road. How many people in the States have... How many people... Anybody from the U.S. see a road that looks like this? That's very strange. It's a very strange width for a road. Like, look at it. It's wide. They made it wider than just a straight 2-lane road. Because they've had to constantly repair it because it turns out moving like 100-ton starships down a regular 8-inch subgrade road made out of asphalt really breaks it. See last. Misinformation. There's a party interested in CT-1, but it isn't SpaceX. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I really wish NASA would just man the frick up and just use it and build another pad because reasons, but whatever. Oh yeah, see, look. These weird radius roads again. Interesting. And see, they had to upgrade a heavy segment of the road. Because this road, like, look, you could really tell right there. When you see grooves in the road from freaking space, you could tell that that road is messed up. Literally grooves, tire grooves in the road because the road's not designed to move heavy infrastructure. Pretty cool, huh? I think that's pretty neat. Alright, anyway. Speaking of SLS and speaking of heavy things, I have this footage for you guys if you want to check it out. Road Simulator needs constant updates. A straight road building game 7 would actually be pretty cool. I like this footage. I bet if they just put some Flex Seal on it, it'd be fine. They do. They put asphalt in the cracks, Johnny, all the time. They literally do Flex Seal asphalt roads. What are you talking about? But Johnny, hold on. Excuse me. Orang rocket good. Oh, look at this. Yeah. Oh yeah. What? Gotta get my timing right. Diddle-diddle-doo. Leave-a-lap-a-dee-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-dee. I don't want to sing the words because I don't want to get copy struck. Vibing in an elevator. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, T-Man, we saw that. It's big, man, isn't it? Get my timing right. Facts in the mailroom, honey. Read between the lines. Laughing in the elevator. Lift it up when you're going down. Yeah, there's the... Actually, that's the panel that had the hydrogen leak right there. Just on a side note. Oh, you think we're at the ground? No, it keeps going. We're still about, I don't know, 50, 60 feet off the ground. Yep. And that's just the top of the ML. Yeah. There you go. I think the Kate Law site will be done by the end of the year. Yeah, me too. Can you put the link to this video in chat? Sure. I don't want to listen to Aerosmith now. Damn. That is a big build. Up, going up! Going up! Banner, danner, 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 danner. We need the... Hold on. Hang on one second. Unbelievable. This is the same soundtrack that plays on my luggage. The ship is too big. If I walk, the movie will be over. Ah, buckle this. Ludicrous speed. Go! We break for nobody. Still going. It's a big building. not even at the top yet, guys. There's the top of the ML. Yeah, it's about 50 more feet that way. Okay. Actually, this isn't even the top. It goes higher than this. Yeah, that footage is pretty rad. I like that. Ding. Going down. What are we watching here? Matt, this is the elevator. This is an elevator inside of the VAB. I want to get a good scale for how big the vehicle assembly building is that SLS is being built in. Well, there's the ground right there. So we're 2 stories up. 3 stories. That's 4 stories. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. You get the idea. It's 50 stories tall. No, Johnny, I haven't. What camera did you use in Route 154? I think I want a similar camera for my bicycle. It was a gyro-stabilized camera. A DJI gimbal camera. Predominant little handheld thing. I shipped it back to DOS. I don't know what the model number is. How are you telling the floors? Okay. The VAB is made out of the truss segments, and each truss segment, each kind of section, think about the VAB basically as just a bunch of trestles on top of each other. If we go back over here, so you see the crossbar? This crossbar is going to go up. Every crossbar intersection right there, that's 2 stories. And then you get to the top of the crossbar, and then you have the joist, right? I think that's called the joist right there. That's 4 stories, okay? So that's 4. Six. 8. The crossbar on that part of the VAB, for whatever reason, is right there. See it? So every one of those sections is about 4. So, like, for instance, the mobile launcher. I always tell people this. The deck of the mobile launcher is 6 stories off the ground. This is a 6-story building. That's where the deck of the ML is. So, like, where the rocket is. Oh, that's cool, Johnny. Neat. Electron, what is this? Yeah, nice. Those are all instrumentation cameras and stuff. Engineering, or not instrumentation, engineering cameras. So, up here, up at the very top, I'm telling you, this thing, I know that this thing didn't go all the way to the top of the VAB. One, because there's an elevator that goes to the top of the VAB. This one didn't go all the way to the top because the cross members are still going up. See that? We're about 4 or 5 stories away from the roof of the VAB here. That should tell you how big that is. I mean, honestly, the VAB looks like something out of Star Wars. It looks like if you go inside of that thing, it's ridiculous. It's on a scale that just, frankly, is ridiculous. It's just really hard to explain unless it's really hard to explain unless like unless you go, you know. Anyway, so we do have an update on the Europa Clipper mission. That's the next thing here, and I'm gonna try to mix the audio so NASA doesn't blow our eardrums out. Let's see. There it is. The Europa Clipper satellite. That's cool. I think it was delivered. What is this? Delivered to JPL, right? Yep. Europa Clipper main body, JPL arrival. Cool, cool. Cool. Are we still going to do more Oh.